If you like ASMR.
The fizz of the bubbles. Let's try and pull mine similar to yours so people don't think I'm not
What drink?
Perfect pour, perfect pour.
So, episode 4.
We're back.
Consistency.
I was going to say we're actually back on schedule for once, more or less. Yeah, and we're continuing the. We're going to try and stick to a topic, just throughout. See how that goes. So this week we're doing The Batman.
The Batman. 2022.
I was going to say not the animated show from like the mid 2000s.
Yeah. Robert Pattinson. Batman.
That's what we're doing. This is Don't Start a Podcast, by the way. With vengeance. So yeah, I'm Ben. This is Aaron. And yeah, if you enjoy the episode, give us a subscribe, a like, a follow. We're on most social media. So yeah, let's get started.
As we said, episode 4. Let's start. So, thoughts. What are your thoughts on the
Batman? I went in with pretty high expectations. Not just because like, I'd say on average we're pretty lucky with Batman movies where most of them are like very good. What I mean? At the very least, like you get the odd miss, but generally, especially recently, on average, there's more good Batman movies than bad ones.
Yeah, and they do reach quite a high peak. The good Batman films do.
That's the thing.
Compared to like other superhero movies.
Yeah, it's very rare I come out of a Batman film and I'm like, that was fine.
Yeah,
I'll admit that there are some bad ones, but I feel generally my attitude towards a Batman movie is it'll probably be good. So I went in with pretty high expectations, and I think Matt Reeves is a really good director. I really like his, certainly because he does the second and third Planet of the Apes reboots.
Yeah.
I certainly really like the second one. The third, I was kind of towards, but
right.
Either way, I think he is a talented director. He did Cloverfield back in the day. Like the OG Cloverfield.
It's the fan footage.
Yeah.
Cloverfield.
The best Cloverfield.
The only Cloverfield Lane slaps.
I was going to say Cloverfield Lane is really good though.
Yeah.
But he doesn't do that much.
And I mean, I guess it's like not really a Clover.
That's the thing.
Sequel, to be fair.
But yeah, like he's a really good. So I was pretty hyped. The trailers, although I didn't really watch them, because I don't watch trailers. What I'd seen, the clips, the interviews, the stills, everything had me like. It
looked aesthetically, it looked amazing. From the jump.
And I really liked how in all the interviews they really talked about like the comics. Like, here's the comics we looked at. They got bare specific.
Yeah.
I was like, it really felt like these guys have done their research and
they get Batman.
Yeah, and they had like an idea. It wasn't like, hey, can you make a Batman movie for us? Sure.
Yeah.
I've seen The Dark Knight. I know Batman.
Well, it's weird because obviously DC as a whole, they're in quite a weird position right now. Not in a bad way, because I feel like their past few projects have been like quite high standard. But I mean, like, when you look at it in a sense of, we had Batman vs Superman, which was like all over the place.
Yeah, well, and I mean, even if you want to go back to Man of Steel, that was quite polarizing.
Yeah, in terms of the understanding of the character.
Yeah, and like some people really didn't like that movie.
Yeah, I mean,
certainly they didn't start off on a strong foot as they wanted for the extended
definitely not.
universe thing they were doing,
and it kind of just got worse and worse.
Yeah, I was gonna say literally every movie deteriorated. Well, to start with, because obviously people really like Wonder Woman, but generally the attitude towards DC and their cinematic universe was like, oh, they make shit movies.
And it weren't even, like you said, like shit. It weren't even, you know, these are okay. Some of them, like Suicide Squad, was like,
honestly,
I hated it.
I was gonna say one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Like that, BVS was. I know some people love it, but just didn't work for me at all.
It is all over the place, but it's a beautiful film. Is it as in to look at? I love
the style.
The style of it, but the look of the character. Well, maybe not Superman so much, because but Batman I thought looked great.
My thing is like, there's other Zack Snyder movies that look better. You know what I mean? Like,
what, as in,
like like most of his other movies do look just as good. So I can't even be like, oh yeah. Like, I'll just watch that movie for the visuals, because I'm like, I'd rather watch like, I don't know, 300 or something.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what happened. Because I was a big apologist for Man of Steel. Where like when it came out, a lot of people and a lot of Superman fans, which I do count myself a part of, were like, this movie is fucking terrible. And I was like, no, man, you lot are being unfair. This movie's like the origin. Watch the sequel. The sequel will prove you all wrong.
Yeah, that didn't really happen, did it? Well, no, but like you said, I agree with what you're saying. I thought Man of Steel was a good starting point.
Yeah,
it wasn't. I get the
criticism.
Like the Superman purists, obviously. I get what the complaints were about the film, but I thought it was a good starting point.
Yeah.
But then the sequel technically is Batman vs Superman.
Yeah.
Which was basically like Iron Man 2, where it's trying to set up so much stuff for the universe, except like, I don't know, it never really went anywhere.
Yeah, like literally it built into Justice League, which no one liked. Which obviously is a bit unfair, because, you know, obviously Zack Snyder's daughter sadly died, and he had to step away, and then the studio clearly took that as an opportunity to meddle with it. But either way, you know, that was a very heavily compromised film at the end of the day that no one liked, and no one is like, man, the theatrical cut of Justice League.
No, it was bad. I think I do prefer Batman vs Superman, so like the original Justice League.
I've never actually seen Justice League, so
it's just But even more of a recent times with DC, I mean, it's in terms of like what they're doing with characters, because when you look at a film like Joker, what they're doing with the character, like, it's not really about the comic book character.
They literally said we didn't read the comics, we're doing our own thing.
Yeah, so when they announced they're doing like a Batman solo film that isn't attached to the DC extended universe they already had, at the beginning I was like, oh, like this could be like messy.
Yeah, same. I was sort of like, and even with the casting of Pattinson, not that like I was like, oh no, I was just sort of like, oh, okay, this seems like it's gonna be
hit or miss.
You know, like, he was the least safe option. You know what I mean? Like, oh, Robert Pattinson is like gonna piss off a certain crowd, but it's not like they like really cast someone totally like where you're like, I didn't even think of them as Batman. You know what I mean? Like, so even from that, I still wasn't hyped. It wasn't until I sort of saw that first teaser, really. And obviously there was all the behind the scenes stuff where like it got delayed over and over again because of COVID and that. You were sort of like, oh no, is this going to be a bit of a mess?
Yeah.
But I think that first trailer did a lot to like be like, oh, okay. And then, just from there, as I said, all the interviews and that really won me over. So I did go in with like very high expectations. Yeah. And I was amazed that like it met them.
Yeah.
Like,
in a way, for me at least, I think it exceeded them, because I thought it would be good. I just didn't know how good. And I don't know. I don't have a lot to complain about.
I was going to say, honestly, like, this is easily like a top 2 Batman movie immediately. Like, I've only seen it twice, and already I'm like, this, which is very rare that, like, I have that.
Yeah.
I'm not the sort of person that sees the new thing and goes, oh my God, the new thing is the best thing. But this, I was just like, wow, they really, like, made a Batman movie. Like, they did their research. They found a new way to do this character that is, like, done to death. Let's be honest. Like, there's been a lot of Batman movies.
Yeah.
Like,
but
if you don't have a take, it's sort of like...
But like you say, they do it in such a interesting way to look at Batman, because it's a new Batman, not an origin story.
Yeah.
He's been Batman for a couple of years. And the thing I like is they make him he's not perfect. Like, in the way he does things. Like when he's using he's gliding and he hits the bridge and he falls, or the car, the Batmobile, when he stalls it.
Yeah, or there's the whole thing with him and Gordon fucking up the riddle for ages because they can't speak Spanish.
Yeah, and then Penguin's just like, you're both stupid.
Yeah. Which is definitely, like, a lot of this movie is taken from Earth 1, which is like a graphic novel they did where they sort of reinvented Batman's origin. And there, like, he's constantly fucking up. That's where Alfred is, like, the Wayne's bodyguard rather than their butler comes from. Like, this takes a lot from that. And I really was impressed that, like, they managed to make Batman, like, fresh without doing the origin again. He is Batman. The first scene, he has the bat suit. It's not like Batman Begins. It's not like we go all the way back and have to...
And people know who he is.
Yeah.
Just from seeing the bat signal.
Yeah, I was going to say,
he's like established.
We don't have to go through, like, here's me meeting Gordon. Here's me meeting who, like, the people know who Batman is. Batman is in the bat suit. He's got all his gadgets. He might not know how to use them, but he has everything. He has the Batmobile. He has the well, here it sort of seems like a subway thing, which is once again from Earth 1. But, he has everything set up. He's not like, oh man, I'm Batman, but I've just come back and, like...
Yeah, I need someone to make my suit.
Yeah.
I need to, explore the cave.
Yeah, like this, he's Batman. He's just not good at it yet. He's not perfect yet.
Yeah.
He's not
fully formed.
Yeah,
into, what we know Batman as.
Yeah, which is surprisingly refreshing, because I feel like even in Begins, it's like the second he's in the Batsuit, like, he's Batman. And so I quite like that here we explore that. Well, like,
the middle stage of it all. Yeah.
So yeah, I was really impressed that it managed to feel that fresh. Well, because that, to be fair, was the other thing. I remember them saying, like, this is an early years Batman. And I was like, God damn, we're doing early years Batman again. Like, before we'd seen anything. I think some set photos came out, and the Batsuit looked kind of weird in them because they're set photos. And everyone was like, what is this? And they were like, well, it's like early in his career, so he's still like not got it.
He's figuring it out.
Yeah, and I was a bit like, oh my God, here we go again. Like, another... Am I going to see his fucking parents die in this alleyway again? Which I like that we didn't get. But the Waynes are still integral to it.
Yeah.
It's sort of what I feel the new Spider-Man movies didn't realize, which is that I don't need to see Uncle Ben die, but he's still important.
No, definitely. Definitely.
He's still a core foundational reason he becomes Spider-Man is Uncle Ben. You can't...
It's literally part of their character.
Yeah.
And like you say, the thing Spider-Man did is that's been seen, so we're going to completely write it out.
Yeah, we'll just never mention it.
Yeah. Whereas Batman, it's been seen, but it will still be mentioned. It will still be part of the foundations of the character.
Yeah, exactly. It's like if we did another Superman movie, I wouldn't, after Man of Steel, I wouldn't necessarily want to see a whole thing on Krypton again unless they have a crazy new take on it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I don't want it mentioned that he's from Krypton.
Yeah, no,
sort of thing.
Exactly.
You know, same deal with here, where it's like, yeah, Bruce Wayne's parents are core to his character, but we don't need to see them in the alleyway, her pearls getting snatched, and then, you know, because we've done that every way we could possibly do it.
Yeah.
We've done it where, like, the Joker kills them. We've done it where a gunman we don't know the name of kills them. We've done it where it's just Joe Chill that kills them. We've done it, that weird scene in BVS where, like, his dad tries to fight the mucker. You know, we've done that every single way we could do it. We don't need to see it. But his parents are still, like, important to him.
What's the reason he turns into the character that he is?
Yeah, exactly.
And so, like you said, it's a very similar situation with Spider-Man. So
yeah, you know, great power, great responsibility. Otherwise, I don't understand in those new Spider-Man movies why he's Spider-Man. It's like he's just like, I guess I'll be this.
Yeah.
You know, if there's no Uncle Ben, like, what made him decide to, like, fight? I mean, those movies will probably be like, he saw Iron Man when he was a kid, and that made him want to fight crime.
They'll retcon it somehow, yeah.
You know, that's sort of what it feels like.
But the more you think about it, the idea of making it a new Batman is even smarter than you realize. Just from the contrast what we had with Ben Affleck's Batman, which was literally the opposite end.
Yeah,
he's like an older Batman.
Yeah, he's very Dark Knight Returns inspired.
Yeah, and like, obviously they take it to the extreme, to the point where he kills and
murdering people.
Yeah, but it was very smart for them to move away from that completely. Where
Absolutely.
It's just he's, you know, we're not gonna do the origin. We're not gonna do the fucking fully formed Batman. We're gonna do, you know, he's a tiny bit clumsy with the way he does things, but he's still Batman.
Absolutely.
Which I thought worked, like
I
in the film.
This like, yeah, and just like, I loved how he fit in the world perfectly. I loved the look of this Gotham, where it's not as extreme as like Burton's Gotham, where like that feels like hell on earth. Just
it's like a gothic.
Yeah, like a nightmare.
It's
literally.
a Tim Burton.
Yeah,
it's Tim Burton.
If he made a city. And then obviously Schumacher kind of threw the neons in there, but kept a similar vibe. And then, you know, Begins is probably the closest we got to this. But even then, I don't feel it was at the same level. And then obviously Dark Knight makes the city very, like, it's Chicago, you know, it's a real city. And there is, I think all of those work for their respective movies. I've seen a lot of people recently come out and be like, the biggest problem with Dark Knight is that Gotham's just a normal city. And I'm like, but the tone those movies are going for, it has to be that.
Yeah, you can't have this gothic, you know, over the top.
Yeah.
Comic-y. The thing is, with the Nolan films, I get the argument a bit, because it is literally just a normal place. But it works for the universe the movies are in.
And like the contrast between, like, Batman has literally cleaned up the city to where, you know, it doesn't look like Begins anymore. It looks like a normal city. The gangsters are all like, they're not doing crime in the same way anymore. Now it's like tax evasion and stuff like that they're doing.
Yeah.
And then you throw the Joker in there, where it's like, here's a normal city with like a supervillain in it.
And even then, like, they change a lot about the Joker in that film. Like, they have to, they just make him a normal guy.
I was gonna say, he's like a terrorist.
He's a terrorist. He puts makeup on. There's none of the, you know, falls into chemicals. He's just like a bad person.
Yeah,
over the top. In that sense.
But it works. Those movies, what they're aiming to do, they do perfectly. Because, as I said, I just don't feel that is what they're going for at the end of the day. They're not going for the comic-y tone.
No, exactly. From the start, Nolan's films were. They were the most realistic you could get a Batman story.
Yeah, which is funny because I feel like Begins isn't that far off. It's more Dark Knight where they clearly were like, okay, we did that. Let's do something different.
Yeah, because obviously you still get League of Shadows.
Yeah, and you have the microwave machine that's very sci-fi.
Yeah, obviously Scarecrow himself.
Yeah, you know, you still do the fear gas and that. It's not like Scarecrow's just a serial killer or something.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
To the degree, like, I feel like if after Begins, the next movie had like, I don't know, Mr. Freeze. It wouldn't have felt like, what?
No.
It could
have worked.
Yeah, but Dark Knight is where it shifts into like, no, we're doing realism.
Which is weird, because then the third one just like fucking kind of goes the opposite way.
Yeah, but still, I think that's where the complaint that like, why is Gotham a normal city comes in, because that is where, okay, we brought everything back from Begins, but the city still looks like Dark Knight, and like, I don't know, Rises is a mess. Like, a lot of different ideas going on in that movie that I don't think like work. But with the Batman, you know, it fits the tone perfectly. This absolutely had to be a more exaggerated city while still feeling like a real place.
Yeah, it's the thing we were saying. It's like if you took the Arkham games, Gotham, and mixed it with the Nolan Arkham.
Absolutely.
It's got the perfect amount of, you know, them Gothic buildings.
Yeah, which makes sense because they filmed a lot of it over here.
Which, I love.
Yeah. Which makes it feel like this doesn't... You don't point it and go, oh, this is New York, this is Chicago. Like, this feels like a weird city that's, like, out of time, but, like, it works. It still feels...
Yeah, it's quite an old-fashioned, you know, older buildings. And the other thing I love is a lot of the film, we barely get any of Gotham in the daytime, which I think is great. And again, it goes back to the Arkham games, where all of those games are just at night, which I think it works with Gotham. Like, the idea of Gotham, it's meant to be this moody, dark.
I was gonna say the way I always sort of compare Metropolis and Gotham in the comics is Metropolis is New York City during the daytime, and Gotham is New York City during the nighttime. Right, so it makes sense that when you see those cities, it's that time of day. You know what I mean? Like, it would feel out of place if, like, this Batman at this point in this movie was just, like, strolling about in the daytime.
Yeah.
But I like that the movie then ends when he completes his character arc with, it is the sun is up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Almost
like,
as if, you know, he's gone through this situation, and it's like the dawn of a new...
Yeah, exactly. I think the movie does a lot, and just the cinematography with the shadows and the darkness. Like, I've seen a lot of people be like, this movie's really dark, and I mean, tonally, yes, but also just visually, I love how, like, just the dark, like, a lot of superhero movies nowadays post the MCU feel very flat in their lighting, in their stylization. They don't feel like... You don't come away remembering visuals necessarily. No, you remember more moments like, I remember when Cap lifted the hammer. You remember that, not like the cinematography of him lifting the hammer. You just remember the moment. Whereas this, it's like, remember that shot of like Batman doing whatever. Remember the fight where like it's only illuminated by gunfire. And there's no like, you know what I mean? This is one of those movies.
But I think that's also just a complaint I have with Marvel films overall, where like I was talking about recent with DC, it feels like they go into a film with a specific set of ideas. Yeah. So they know how their film wants to look, how they want it written, how they want their characters to be. Whereas Marvel, and especially recently, a lot of people have been complaining about the overuse of like blue screens.
Yeah. Marvel films. And I think with them, because people always go, well, what about this moment? It's like, it feels like they have that one moment that looks absolutely beautiful. And then the rest of the movie is like...
It's so uninspired.
Just grey, to be honest, like visually grey. Or just doesn't stick out from everything else. And I think DC do the same thing in a lot of their movies. Not all of them, but I think their DCEU movies suffer from that a little. Where like Wonder Woman, you go like, oh yeah, remember the No Man's Land scene. But then the rest of that movie, you're sort of like, it's kind of just a bland grey mess.
Yeah. But then when you look at, for example, I know you're not a massive fan of Joker, but stylistically, it's consistent with what it's going for. In the way the film looks.
You're going to have the Joker stands coming after me. They're going to be like, yes, I knew it. I knew Ben didn't like that fucking movie.
But it's going for that like old school noir type.
Yeah, you know, Taxi Driver, King of Comedy, that sort of Scorsese. And this, to be fair, the Batman is very Fincher inspired in visuals, in plot.
Yeah.
There's like literally the scene where they go to Riddler's apartment is the scene from Seven, like almost beat for beat.
What scene from Seven?
Where they go to his apartment and they go through his journals.
Yeah.
Like it is maybe. That was maybe the one scene where I was like, maybe, like, I know we're referencing Seven and Zodiac a lot in this movie, but maybe I didn't need the apartment scene from Seven. I don't know. I've only seen the movie twice. I'll need to think about it a bit more, but that was maybe the one scene I was like, is this, like, there's homage and then there's, like, just doing the fucking scene.
Yeah, but I like that it acknowledges the, obviously what it's inspired by. It's like I think the tones of the film, like the colours and the tones, are very similar to Zodiac. As in, it's got that weird offish grey, even in the daytime, or especially in the daytime of the Batman film. It's got them like offish greys. It's not like a normal. Even in the daytime, it looks miserable.
Yeah,
moody.
like
it's
bland in a good way, not bland in it's boring to look at. Bland in like just like the life has been drained out of everyone.
Everything looks.
The sun is like, it's almost like a hangover. Like the sun is just too bright. Where you're like, you know, Bruce Wayne's putting on his sunglasses. He never looks comfortable in the daytime, and if it is daytime, it's like overcast, miserable. Like he never looks comfortable in a good way. And yeah, like, I think, because I hadn't actually seen Zodiac until afterwards. I watched it quite recently. You know, Seven I'm very familiar with. I've seen a bunch of times. But it is interesting to see that their pitch seemed to just be like, what if you put Batman in a Fincher movie? Like, what would that be like? And I really like that they really went for it. Like, if we want to like get into performances and actors here, we like Paul Dano's Riddler is like outstanding.
Great. And he was fucking scary.
I was gonna say I love his intro.
His first scene, when he's just behind him. And then he just screams.
Yeah, like his weird manic energy when he's in the back of the car, and you know he's in the back of the car, but the movie takes its time to like reveal like he's gonna get the DA. Like I've missed like back in the day, blockbusters, we always, you know, when you're a kid and you'd watch a movie and it'd have just a fucking scary scene. It wouldn't be a horror, but like when you're a kid, you watch Lord of the Rings, you're like, oh man, the ring wraiths fucked me up. Or Jurassic Park has a ton of like scary like
there's stuff. It goes back to there's stuff in there for the adult audience, even though it's meant for I wouldn't say necessarily this Batman film was meant for like a young audience. But it has stuff in there for a more mature audience.
I do want to briefly talk about, like, this movie is a 15, and I think that's unfair. I don't think this movie is any worse than The Dark Knight. I think this could be a 12. I like the violence isn't like there is nothing here more violent than the pencil scene in Dark Knight.
That's true. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I sort of feel like just because the vibe is darker, they've sort of gone for a 15, and I think that was more entirely. I think it helped with the marketing. Oh, absolutely. Because
obviously, you know, there's always that argument with comic book films that are portrayed as more mature. Is it you know, is it going to be R-rated? Is it going to be or is it going to be 12?
Oh, and obviously here we do have that weird thing. Well, actually, America's weirder, but you know, where there it's PG-13 then R, whereas we do have 12, 15, 18.
Yeah, because we have 12A.
So you often kind of have like movies here where they sort of fall in one or the other way. You're like, that was quite intense for a 12, or you're like, that was a 15. And I do feel this is the latter, where it's like, this was a 15. Like,
yeah, but no, I definitely agree with you. Yeah, Dark Knight was no. This was no more.
I was gonna say, if I had a kid who watched Dark Knight, I would be happy showing them this. This wouldn't be like if I had an 8-year-old, but if I had a 12-year-old child, I would feel all right showing them this.
Yeah, I mean the Joker literally walks around with 2 massive scars on his face, like you say,
and constantly threatens to do it to people.
Yeah, like he holds a fucking knife in Rachel's mouth.
Yeah, like I was gonna say, I don't think this is any darker. Visually, it is, and tonally, and you do get the idea of like some of the Falcone stuff is quite dark, but
then you the stuff with Riddler, I think, is quite dark,
because
especially
he's
for a
gonna
modern
do
audience.
like a mass shooting.
Yeah,
I suppose.
because like he literally has a, it all is very it works in today, as in he has like a cult of followers on basically Twitch.
Yeah, basically.
like a deep web Twitch where he has fans. Just he has a cult. They all meet up. And like you say, it's just like a public shooting.
Yeah,
so I guess
and it's
maybe
definitely framed that way.
Yeah,
where, because it's interesting. Like normally, I feel like the attitude people take with Batman is he works best when he's sort of out of time. Where like we don't get very specific with like the Arkham games. Nobody pulls out a smartphone in the Arkham. You know what I mean? Like it feels modern but like timeless.
Right.
Sort of like the original Batman the animated series, where like it's very modern, but then like the TVs are black and white, and you're like, all the gangsters look like they're from the 40s. Like,
well, like you say, it's just, sorry to cut you off, but literally, like you said, the Arkham games.
Yeah.
It's like I started replaying Arkham Knight the other day.
Oh, interesting.
And it's meant to be modern. When you look at like his Batmobile and all this, it's meant to be modern, but all the cars are like 70s and 80s models. So it's literally like you're saying, it's like they need they need to use modern tech, but they don't want it to be.
But I think this one was the strongest argument I've ever seen that Batman works in the modern day. Like, to see like, okay, whilst the city feels gothic in that people are using smartphones, you know, the thumb drive thing, the whole Riddler being reinvented as sort of this incel cult guy,
who uses live streams and Reddit.
Yeah, like I think this really did do a good job arguing like, no, you can put Batman in the modern day, and it doesn't mean it has to be like the Nolan movies where it's like, this is today and everything is very realistic.
And
here it's
everything
like,
needs an explanation.
Yeah. Here it's like, yes, we're in an exaggerated world, but it is still like our world. This sort of just feels like a nightmare version of any city. Which I think really was refreshing to see, because when it started and I saw them using like the flash drive and that, I was like, is this too modern? But then when it got to the Riddler stuff, I was like, no, absolutely, this was the right decision to make, because what a fresh take on that character.
And it's just like you say, the ideas they push in the film, like, you know, he goes to a nightclub, all these politicians are doing this new drug, and it you know what I mean, it feels they understand what's going on today, in a sense, and they put it into their film.
Definitely. Like, I was really impressed with like how far it went in those places where, as I said, I don't know what I expected, but it's certainly like the Riddler stuff really caught me off guard. I was like, okay, he's going to be a serial killer that's like 7 Zodiac inspired. Cool. I really didn't expect them to go in that direct. Like the whole mass shooting thing, like, caught me as off guard as a character. I was like, oh shit, like we're going here.
And it was quite dark, like, you know.
And it felt like they earned it though. It didn't feel like we want to be modern and like put like.
No, I think
it felt like they had something to say. Whereas other Batman related movies that Ben isn't a fan of, I feel like kind of do modern talking points but don't have anything to say about them. They just sort of put them there like, hey, rich versus poor, mental illness, let's throw that in there and just not really have much to say about it, but we'll just put it there. Whereas this felt like it really had a point about, like, as I said, like incels and like,
well, it's weird,
power structures and things like that.
And going back to your point, because I don't know what film you're talking about.
Yeah, it could be any Batman related movie.
No, but the interesting thing about what you've just said is they both center these ideas around Bruce Wayne.
Yes.
Or the Waynes.
Yeah, I was going to say definitely the Waynes, and the kind of especially tearing down a bit Thomas and Martha Wayne.
Yeah, and both films kind of use Waynes as like a device, as in like a writing device, as in they're a metaphor for, you know, well, they are upper class, the upper class,
but literally billionaires.
Yeah, and they're more similar than you think, as in in how they use them.
I think so. I just think this. Number one, this benefits any story about Bruce Wayne's parents benefits from him being the main character. Always, I think, because they're his parents, and they are the reason he becomes Batman.
And obviously the idea of him being a split character, you know, he's dealing with, and I love the way they do it in the Batman, as in, you don't know if the Riddler is sending him these cards because he knows he's Bruce Wayne and he fucking hates his family, or if he just idolizes the Batman and he sees him as just his nemesis.
I was gonna say, like, this did it because Riddler is often the villain that figures out he's Bruce Wayne. You know, I'm sure we do that. I haven't seen Batman Forever in over a decade, but I'm sure in that movie he figures out who Bruce Wayne is. Obviously in the comics, Batman Hush, he figures out who Bruce Wayne is. I love that we like do it here, but we don't like that. We have to talk about the interrogation scene because you know, immediately when it started, I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Is this where the movie's going to lose me? Because the most iconic Batman scene in any movie is the Dark Knight interrogation. Yeah. Like, I'm sorry.
And it was bold for them to, you know, like, try to do their own one. Yeah.
And I do think, like, this movie, more than, like, just the way it starts where Batman's there and he's, like, awkward. Like, he's just... It's like he doesn't know what to do. Like, he's like, I'm fucked, basically.
Yeah.
And, you know, we haven't gotten to see Paul Dano properly yet. You know, he's always been on the other end of a live stream, or when they catch him, he's just sort of like, huh, you got me. You know, he doesn't really... This is Paul Dano's, like, scene to shine. Whereas, obviously, in The Dark Knight, Heath Ledger, we've seen a lot of up to that point. So, in a way, it's even more bold to do it that way, to be like, here's this character, we're introducing him in, because no one saw that scene and didn't think of The Dark Knight.
Of course, it's the first thing I thought of.
I was gonna say, like, as I said, I was like, oh no, is the movie finally gonna lose me? Because I knew we weren't at the end yet, sort of thing. So I was like, here we go. Now we're gonna do like.
Well, and the other thing is that they both serve the same purpose, to like try and show Batman as being one-upped.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, Heath Ledger, the twist is, oh, you know, I have Rachel, I have Harvey, which one is which? And then Batman's like, oh shit, like, you've got me. And then it's the same thing in the Batman, where he's like, you know, oh, you're not going to see my demonstration, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh fuck, like, what are you talking about?
And I just think, like, the scene progresses so perfect, where, like, the Riddler just is saying his name, and then he sort of flips it and he's like, we almost got him. And you're like, there's so many ways you could read that scene. You could read it as like, he knows his Bruce Wayne, but he's like, you know, that there's no fun in revealing your identity. Like, I idolize Batman, and what he says about, like, you are you, like, you're Batman. I love that, like, that idea of, like, no matter what, whoever your real identity is, like,
it doesn't.
This is who you are.
Yeah.
And I love how it compares it to, like, Riddler when he's like, when I wore the mask, and because that was definitely, I saw a lot of people when the set photo came out of, like, the Riddler's costume, and he had that weird mask, and, like, it just looked like the bootleg Zodiac killer. I saw a lot of people be like, why? You know, Riddler never wears a mask in anything. And so I think he'd justified it in such a good way, where it's like, well, no, because he needs to compare himself to Batman. And them both wearing masks and realizing, like, no, this is me. Like, me.
This is what I can actually be.
Which is always a thing in Batman, you know, the idea that Bruce Wayne isn't him. Like, Batman is him.
And going back to the idea of... It works in the universe as well, as in, you know, he's a serial killer. Why would he show his face?
Yeah, and especially where he's doing the live streams and that, like, where if people went, oh, that's that guy, you know, it would definitely, like, kill your suspension of disbelief immediately. And so, yeah, I just, what a, like, from both of them, because we haven't really gotten into actors yet so far, but honestly, like, Robert Pattinson was, like, perfect.
He was
in
amazing.
This movie. Like, all the complaints I've seen, I do not agree with in the slightest. I think that's just people nitpicking.
The main one I've been seeing is, he's not Bruce Wayne.
He's not Playboy.
He's not Playboy. But, you know, I think it doesn't have to be, and there's also room for that. They can still do that.
Like, this is early. We've never gotten reclusive Bruce Wayne, except maybe the first Tim Burton movie. That's the only time I can think of where it's been like Bruce is a real where he's not out here doing whatever.
The public events.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, just it with his character, I just can't picture him being, the playboy. The guy has a diary where he notes down the nights of what a breakdown of what he's done as Batman in the night. This guy doesn't have time to be like posing as
also just like I don't think he's mature enough to realize like the one proper Bruce Wayne scene we get where I mean he's in public being Bruce Wayne is the funeral.
Yeah.
And like there's no like it just wouldn't work. Like, I imagine he was there like, hey, I'm Bruce at a fucking funeral. Like, what?
And I know the idea of Batman is he's like able to distinguish between the two. But in this sense, I feel like you say, it would feel weird if he could just switch from all that, I don't know. He's just so into the idea of Batman. If he just switched and was like, suave and
absolutely
playful, you'd be like, it's a bit out of character. But again, I still think they could go down that route.
That's what I'm saying.
There's so much room for this character.
That's the most exciting thing for me is like that they could go anywhere in the sequel.
Literally anywhere. Just all right. Let's just on a side topic. Did you see the unreleased Joker scene?
It.
Yeah. What was your thoughts?
I enjoyed it, but I get absolutely shouldn't have been in the movie. They made the right call.
Made the right call. I hope he isn't in the sequel. But I want to see him.
Absolutely. And I don't think he'll be in that because from what Matt Reeves have said, it sort of feels like he doesn't want to do Joker yet. And I think that's the right call because I think they did it. I know, I'm not sure how you feel. We only like vaguely talked about it the other day, but I didn't mind the scene with Joker in this movie. I know a lot of people have said it's out of place. It's kind of forced. I think in the moment it's the right call to make because every Batman invention we do, when you're doing the Joker, how are you doing the Joker? Is Joker going to be in this? I think this was the perfect way to be like, look, this is Batman, Joker's appeared. I love that Batman and the Joker already have history, but like, he's over there. Don't worry about it. Like,
I agree with what you're saying, but then
the scene is kind of...
Why not just do... the scene they cut?
I don't know. I think that scene kind of fucks up the flow of the movie. And I don't like how... number one, I think just visually him being in Arkham that early ruins the scene with him and Riddler.
But aren't they in Arkham with him and Riddler?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I feel like him... If we'd already seen a scene where Joker and Batman are in Arkham...
Oh yeah, because it is literally
it's the same scene,
and it feels like they use the same set.
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
looks very similar. No, yeah,
they probably shot it the same day. You know,
I
mean, visually, it wouldn't have been like, oh fuck, we're doing the interrogation scene. It'd be like you did the interrogation scene twice in one movie.
Yeah,
and also I just think I don't like how Joker in that scene just like here's the themes of the movie. I think too early it compares Batman and Riddler, where he says like he does what you're worried. Yeah, you're worried he's better than you or whatever. Whereas I think I love the sucker punch at the end of the movie or towards the end of the movie when you sort of realize Riddler's plan, when you're like, oh, these guys think they're Batman, like they're inspired by him in a bad way.
Yeah,
and then obviously that kind of culminates in the I'm vengeance bit.
I think overall, like you say, I agree. It was smart that they cut it. I wasn't when I saw it in the cinema and they did the Joker scene. I was a bit like, I didn't know. Like I'm still a bit 50-50 on it.
I was gonna say I don't adore the Joker scene. I got why they did it. As I said, if I was Matt Reeves, I definitely would have done something Joker related, just so people fuck off asking me. You know what I mean? Because it's bad. At the end of the day, I've seen people be like, I'm sick of Joker, this and that. I'm sorry. No. Joker is integral to Batman. As much as Alfred, Robin, Catwoman, you
have to do it.
The like, core,
You have. There's just no way.
Any version of Batman where he never interacts with Joker, you're always like, well, that's kind of disappointing.
And I will say, like I said, I hope they don't do him in a sequel. I don't think they will.
Same, I agree. If they do him in the sequel, then I will turn on that scene and be
yeah.
like, well, you were just doing him in the sequel anyway.
Yeah. Because what I will say is, the thing I liked is it didn't feel like sequel setup. Some people saying, they're just setting him up the sequel. For me, it didn't feel like that.
Same. I think that's what I saw a lot of people say that should have been the after credit scene, and I was like, the thing is, we're so conditioned by Marvel. After credit scene means the next movie is that.
Exactly.
It's why everyone complained that Age of Ultron didn't have Thanos in it, because all our brains were like, well, no, that I've seen every Marvel movie. I know that at the end credits of that is like the next time on Marvel. And so I think it's smart that this movie just had it in the movie.
Yeah. I will say, I think the route that they can go with him, like, they have endless possibilities. From the look that they gave him, I just want them to go like full on, like fucking psychotic, like killer. Like, just when you see his face in that scene, the close up. The thing I was just thinking of, imagine they just did a scene where he's just like, there's a close up of his face, he's over someone and just like fucking, I don't know, strangling. To me, he seems like the route they're gonna go with him is he's just like gonna be like the most psychotic.
He seems very
version of the Joker.
Scott Snyder inspired, where Scott Snyder sort of turned Joker into like the boogeyman. There's a great when Endgame, not the Avengers one, is kind of weak, but Death of the Family, like, Joker's been missing for I think 2 years, they establish, and like they know Joker's coming back because like the river starts running backwards, there's like a baby born with like 2 heads, and like it's like he's a bad omen. And like there's this great scene where Joker like has Gordon and he's like, you know, sometimes I just like creep in your house and like sleep under your bed just to like hear you breathe and know like I could kill you but I won't do it. And you don't know if he's lying or he's telling the truth. Like there's so, like, I love Scott Snyder's Joker because, as I said, he's like the boogeyman of Gotham, where just like he's this booky guy that shows up and you don't know what he's lying about, what he's telling the truth about, and he's just fucking with everyone and like saying like real horror villain shit. And I really feel like this version of Joker could be that, where it's just like,
and I hope it is, because just from what we got with the Riddler, like already it was like fucking dark depiction of the character. But I hope they go that route with him.
And like I don't feel they're boxed in though, because I feel like the advantage they have is, so the only thing we know is like Batman and Joker have already met. But where Joker is kind of chilling with Riddler, you could do anything where Joker could totally change, where he's like, okay, when I first appeared, you got me, like I did whatever. You know, I was a serial killer, or, you know, I was, I'm the Joker, I'm going to poison the river. You know, you could go either way. And then you could have now, like, he's different. After talking to the Riddler.
He's been in Arkham Asylum for a few years. What I know, when I say I don't want him in the sequel, I don't want him as the main villain.
Same.
But how do you feel about if they went like a Silence of the Lambs route, where he's in the film, but like as a every now and then Bruce goes to see him in the asylum?
I mean that sort of feels like, well, that deleted scene was that.
That is that, but that's what if they take that idea to the sequel.
I suppose it depends on who you do in the sequel. Recently, one of my favorite YouTubers, Patrick H. Willems, he did a video about the Batman and sort of talking about the Robin and sequels, and he said a point I agree with, where like Batman is the one pop culture character where I'm just here for it. Like, no matter what, like, I get the arguments, like, another Batman movie. Like, I don't care. I eat that shit up. I'm the same. Like, give me Joker for the 6th time. I don't care. Especially as, for me personally, we haven't had a Joker since 2008 anyway that I liked. So I'm not of the opinion.
Yeah,
like,
and that's fair.
Oh, we just had a great Joker movie. Like, I'm not of that opinion.
I don't get the argument as well, like you say, because before Heath Ledger, it was Jack Nicholson, which was like how many years? That was like 20 years prior.
It's gonna like this is the thing. Like, okay, like yes, we get a lot of Joker, but in my opinion, most of them aren't even like. Even if you like the Joaquin Phoenix movie, it's not an own thing.
Yeah, it's not the Joker. Obviously, Suicide Squad Joker was crap.
I was going to say, and even the people that like Snyder's Justice League say that scene's out of place with the Joker.
The prologue.
You know what I mean? Like, I really don't feel like Joker in live action is something where it's like, oh, Joker again. Like,
yeah, because
I will say, obviously, it's hard to top Dark Knight, and if you put Joker as your main villain, I'm immediately going to be like, well, Dark Knight.
Hard to top, but there's no reason why they can't do it in a different light.
I was going to say,
the thing about the Joker is there are dozens of ways you can do him, and it still would be true to the character.
It's literally built when Grant Morrison, when they write Batman, they do a thing where they establish this idea of the clown at midnight, where Joker just like, he sort of goes into like a cocoon almost, not like literally, but in his brain, and he just comes out a different person to explain why the Joker's personality shifts between writers. The idea of like, Joker will just like reinvent himself, where he'll just be like, I'm kind of bored of being like this, let me be like this now.
Yeah.
And I feel like, you know, that's built into the character. He can be whatever you fucking want him to be.
And I think the perfect example is Heath Ledger's Joker, because like you say, in a sense, he's not comic accurate at all.
But the thing is, because I've seen a lot of people. I saw a lot of people criticize Barry Keoghan. Is that how you say it? His performance, saying once again we're just doing Ledger,
but
performance wise. But my thing is, okay, in presentation, no, he has a very unique take on Joker. But in terms of the performance, like, he's just Joker.
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day,
the ideals and the mindset, yes.
But like, yeah, you're right. Like, he didn't fall in acid and all of that. Like, yeah, it is a take.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, he just perfectly encapsulates. It's a bit like Kingpin. Whenever you do Kingpin now, I'm going to compare you to Vincent D'Onofrio, because he just... Like, even when I read Daredevil comics, I hear D'Onofrio. Like, he's just that perfect.
That's because he was so good as the character. It's like when you read a book after you've seen a film. You envision the characters in the book as what you see from the film.
You know, that's when you know it's a great performance.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And I didn't get that from him. I didn't go, this is Heath Ledger.
Yeah, same. As I said, I was like, oh, this is the Joker.
Like, he was fucking weird. Like, the thing with the Heath Ledger Joker is a lot of people just think he's cool.
Yeah, he's the one with the quotes.
He's
well,
cool,
him and fucking Joaquin Phoenix, you know, like the society quotes.
Yeah.
Heath Ledger sort of starts the idea of like, what if the villain was right?
Yeah, but
you
the
know
thing
what I
with
mean.
Joaquin's one is he's meant to be like a weirdo. Heath Ledger's one, like, there's so many people I've met who are like, oh yeah, like, so cool, man. Like, you know, when he pulls out the grenade thing, let's not blow it. And like, I love Heath Ledger's Joker, but what if he was just a fucking freak? Like, like what Riddler is in the Batman. Imagine they do that with the Joker. He's just a freak. And he's just psychotic, you know. He's got a fucked up face.
Yeah, and because I saw a lot of people say like he didn't get a chance to be Joker in the scene, and I totally like the whole. It's our first anniversary paper. That is like Joker through and through. The idea of like he's sort of obsessed with Batman, and he tries to make Batman uncomfortable by like making them feel like partners even though they're not. A bit like Riddler does in that scene where he's like, we did it, and he's like, you're nothing but a pathetic psychopath. You know what I mean? Like, the best Batman villains get under his skin. At the end of the day,
literally to the point where in the cutscene Batman just walks off, and you just have the and I love his laugh. His laugh was even though I was a bit 50-50 on his scene in the film, his laugh, I was like, he's nailed it. Because Heath Ledger doesn't really have. I know when in the integration scene he's got the laugh, and
I don't know, because the thing I remember the trailer when it dropped for Dark Knight, and there's like, you just hear his laugh. Because he's like, this city deserves a better class of criminal. You know, that's sort of the speech, and then it has his laugh, and you know the action kicks off, and the dun 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 kicks in. I don't know. To me, Ledger's laugh is quite iconic.
But I don't. It's not part of. it's a reoccurring thing of his character.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Whereas like, you know, when he turns up, he's kind of doing like a play on it where he's like, who, he, I thought my jokes were
and I will say, the Ledger critics out there that say he's not funny are wrong. I'm sorry.
No,
that one tweet went viral of like the best Joker scene they were saying, where like Michael J. White, a gamble, where he's like, what, you think you're just gonna walk out of here? And he's like, yeah.
He's like,
you know, I mean, that's a great scene.
Or like when he's like, I need my phone call. And you know, when they're on when he comes in, he's like, ladies and gentlemen, and then he's like, let her go, and he's like, poor choice of words.
There is, like, he is, at the end of the day, like, as I said a minute ago, like, there is a reason everyone compares the performance to Ledger. Like, and even if you like the Joaquin Phoenix film, it is just like, I really like The Dark Knight, let me do that. You know what I mean? Let me do a spin on that. They literally have the police car scene.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
true. Yeah.
To me, as I said, even if you like that movie, and at the end of the day, we don't live in a vacuum. Everything is going to be compared to that for a reason.
Well, it's like when you have a film that good and a performance that good, as soon as you do the Joker, it's going to happen.
Absolutely.
It's just the way it is going to be. But I just think with what we've seen so far, you can go a complete opposite direction, because like I was saying, obviously he's people look at him, they're like, oh, he's a cool character, you know, and I know he is still like he's a murderer, a psycho, but not in the way you can do it in this new Batman universe, where he's just completely like a weird, unhinged, you know, like I said, with his face, what we've already got with the Riddler. I just think like there's potential there.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the Joker is the most iconic supervillain. Without a shadow of doubt. It's like him, Lex Luthor. You know, when you think superhero and you think supervillain, like, oh yeah, the Joker. At the end of the day, is going to be the one everyone thinks of. But yeah, I just think like it was important they have him just so they could get past, as I said, all the people being like, true. Joker, when you're doing Joker. So I like that he's in the universe, and especially where this is year 2 of Batman. To me, Joker is Batman's first supervillain in any good adaptation of the character. You know, Batman appears to fight the mafia, and then Joker appears.
Right, yeah.
And sort of is the first supervillain he fights. You know, before that, he's fighting Carmine Falcone. Maybe you can have Penguin or something. But at the end of the day, to me, the best Batman adaptations are like, the Joker is more or less around as long as Batman.
Yeah,
more or less.
Which I think is fair.
And I like that they did that without having to be like, okay, movie 1, we got to do Joker.
Yeah. Do you think they're going to change his appearance?
I think they've left room to. Whether they want to or not is up to them. But I think we're number 1 with him teaming up with Riddler, and number 2 where we don't get a good look at him. I think you could have him come out and he does the clown makeup and goes like, I'm reinventing myself, Batman. I'm the Joker now.
Because obviously his hair is already green.
Yeah,
but it doesn't look like he has the white skin.
I think they've left it
where they could do it or they can't. Yeah,
because you know he's always out of focus. You don't get a good look at him. And at the end of the day, it is a deleted scene where we get our best look at him. And deleted scenes are not canonical. At the end of the day,
true,
so many movies contradict deleted scenes.
And another thing I saw, literally what you just said, the reason that it is a deleted scene is because they drop the scene, fans love it, they stick with the look. Absolutely. Fans hate it, okay, it's not real.
I wouldn't be surprised if they just did the scene knowing they wouldn't put it in the movie, just to be like, this will be a good, like, this will test the waters for Joker.
Yeah.
To be like, here's, because I know I want Barry Keoghan as Joker, but
I don't know how.
I don't know the look yet, or how I'm gonna. Like you said, they could do him anyway.
See, I'm not too fussed about if they change the look.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, Heath Ledger is a massive departure looks-wise from that character.
But I like, for me, like, he's nailed it already, Matt Reeves. Like, he needs to be far enough from what we know.
Mm.
And I know people are gonna be like, "Oh yeah, he's just got face scars again. He's got face deformities."
Yeah, I will say I'm not in love with the look where, like, you know, considering how close in places this has kept to the comics, I wouldn't mind if they'd just done he's got a pale face and green hair. But I'm not against, like, the idea he's kind of fucked up from falling in the... I will say, I saw Matt Reeves say, like, the idea of, like, he has a birth deformity. I am not a fan of that, just because, like, to me, Joker shouldn't have an origin.
Well, yeah, that was the idea. The thing I saw, probably what you saw, he has a permanent smile.
Yeah. I was going to say, that's why I saw in him.
But then the thing is, it didn't really look like that in the scene, because he's kind of like that, but he's not really, like, smiling.
And he seems, like, burnt. Like, because his hair's missing in place. That doesn't seem like a... I don't know.
Which kind of suggests he has fallen in.
That's what I'm saying. I think they've left it open to where they can... That's why we never get a good look at him at the end of the day. I think it's so they can go, let's do this or let's do this.
I just like the idea, especially in this Batman universe, that he's scary. You know, he's a horror. You know, if you saw that guy in your room or something, you'd be like, wow, okay.
I was gonna say, at the end of the day, I'm happy with the movie as a whole, so I trust him at the end of the day. Even if my immediate reaction is like, I'm not sure about this, at the end of the day, I like this movie enough that I honestly, he could do whatever.
And I thought Barry Keoghan, like, so far,
I was gonna say, I'm very interested.
Yeah.
But I feel like we should talk about what is in the movie a bit, because there is a lot that we haven't talked about. Like, okay, like, we talked about Riddler, but, like, what about the other villains? Like, we got Penguin, we got Carmine Falcone. What did you think of them?
I thought Penguin was amazing. You know, like Colin Farrell, because obviously when the first screenshots of his character released, everyone was like, that's fucking Colin Farrell.
Yeah.
He is the perfect Penguin. Like, no shadow of doubt. Like, but you tell me someone was going to portray Penguin, and that's what you would think of. He's like the Arkham games Penguin, looks wise. I don't know. Yeah, he just fits perfectly.
They sort of made him like this Cockney gangster. Because once it's sort of his origin. Like, and I love that we call him the Penguin.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm sick of comic book movies where we've got to make everything I love that Gordon just goes, the Penguin.
The Penguin, yeah. And it works. He's like, you know, it's a street name. It works.
like it's his nickname at the end. And like, in a world where Batman exists, this to me is the biggest thing that a lot of these superheroes miss, is that, like, you expect me to believe Batman exists in this universe, but Robin is taking it too far. Like, at the end of the, come on, like, a fucking guy's in a bat suit. Which as much as I love like, I adore, I think Dark Knight is like one of the best movies ever made, but just on a personal level, I do hate that it started this idea of, like, we gotta make everything realistic. We can't just do the comics, because that's just silly.
Yeah.
Even though fucking Batman is there.
Yeah, a guy dressed as a bat, you know.
Like, especially weird because, like Scarecrow is there and stuff. But as I said, I like that this movie just went for it. Like, he's Penguin. Like, he's just, they call him Penguin. He has the Iceberg Lounge.
He's, you know, I love that. Yeah, again, the Iceberg Lounge. Side note, did you know that's an actual place in London that you can go to? It's a club.
Which one is it? Printworks?
Printworks, yeah.
Well, that's funny because someone said to me it reminded them of Printworks.
And it is Printworks. Yeah, they actually use Printworks.
I was going to say, and I love the reinvention, because normally Iceberg Lounge is a very classy place where we're chilling. And I like that we do both. Yeah. We have the class. I mean, it's still seedy, but you know what I mean? The place where all the high class people of Gotham are, like, chilling, and then just the upstairs is a fucking rave. And let's be real, I've seen a lot of people criticize the action in this movie. They're wrong. This has the best Batman action scenes of any
that's, movie. Like you said, the scene where he's just walking and taking gunshots to the chest.
Or the first scene where he just walks in there and he just fucks everyone.
We have to talk about that opening scene. What an opening scene.
Best superhero opening scene ever. I'll say it, because
I'll back it. What a scene.
The narration, the visuals, the fucking action.
Like I was saying to you, when I sat down in the cinema and as that scene was playing, in my head immediately it clicked. I was like, this is gonna be fucking great, because everything was there. The soundtrack.
I was grinning like the Joker. I was like, this is fucking flawless. Like,
and he's just like, I can't speak about it enough. I love the idea that as soon as you see the bat signal, people know, like, you know,
shook.
One of us is gonna get.
Yeah,
the Batman's gonna be at one of our scenes, one of our crime scenes. I don't know who it's gonna be.
Exactly, and I love that they emphasize like he isn't everywhere.
Yeah, but the idea of him lives with like criminals. They know there's a chance he's gonna be stopping you.
Yeah, exactly. Like where the robber's like running that, and he just looks at the alleyway, like, or the guy drops the paint can and it rolls into the dark. Like,
is it gonna be here? Or, but yeah, just the opening scene. It was perfect.
Honestly, if the credits had like rolled, I would have been like,
what a great short film.
Because back in the day, especially, people used to do either sizzle reels or shorts to kind of like prove, like, they would sort of approach the studio and be like, here's my idea for what a whatever movie looks like. There's quite a famous Punisher one they did. There's a Daredevil one they did before it went back to Disney. And that honestly, if you had told me like, the first like 10-15 minutes was just like Matt Reeves like sizzle reel short film he made to like prove to the studio he could make it.
He gets Batman.
I would believe it.
Yeah. I don't know, the vibe, the tone was set so perfectly. You know, you have the voiceover from Pattinson, who's just like, you know,
once again a very comic booky thing. I love that we were just like, we went for it. You know, we're always doing narration, and in a lot of Batman stories, his interior narration is done like it's written. It's sort of done like in like joined up to look like he's writing in a diary. So I like that we just did that in the movie.
I love that though. He's a fucking weirdo. He just as soon as he gets in, you know, he's got so much going on in his head that he has to keep a journal for what's going on his like night.
Well, and like it's not just edgy for the sake of being edgy. It literally helps him where like he's rewatching the footage and he's like going over crime scenes, and he is sort of helping him be Batman. It's so so perfect.
And you know, obviously he has the contact lenses that record the footage. It makes sense that someone of his like stature would go over, you know, replay the footage, take notes. This is what happened. Blah,
absolutely.
Blah, blah. But yeah, and then obviously, I don't know. I
just
can't say enough about the
opening alone. And it's not like the rest of the movie fucking dives off a cliff or something. It is all that. It's just the opening is like paced in a certain way. You know what I mean? And
it builds up to the scene at the subway perfectly.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, like I'm here.
And I love the whole arc he goes on with the whole I'm vengeance thing, and the idea of like he goes from a vigilante to a superhero over the course of the movie.
I love how Catwoman just calls him vengeance.
Yeah. Well, and fucking all of them, like Penguin does. Obviously, we revisit it with the kind of Riddler guy at the end. Like I just loved it. Because I will say, like, when the trailer, as much as I was excited, I was like, this looks like a bit more edgy than I like my Batman. Like, he looked very like, oh yeah, he's listening to Nirvana and he's got the face makeup and I'm vengeance. I was like, is this gonna feel like cringy? But it doesn't, works. It doesn't. It works perfectly.
Yeah, it's like people will call it, because when you see the shots, the pictures that came out before the film, you know, it's got like the longer hair. People saying like, you know, emo Batman. But it works because
at the end, the Batman isn't emo. He can't get over his fucking trauma.
You know, he's
like, to some degree.
He's in this situation. He's in Gotham. His parents have died, which is the whole motivation for him becoming Batman. And he spends his nights, you know,
beating the shit out of people. Yeah,
it makes sense. And going back to the point of, we don't get, you know, the playboy Bruce Wayne in this film. I think that also supports it. You know, he doesn't have that in him yet. He's
well,
still coming to terms with.
Well, and
who
what's
is.
tend to me is like the whole "he's not Playboy Bruce Wayne" complaint only exists because these people like Dark Knight. In reality, the real complaint should be like, why is he only Batman? Normally, Batman is like funding, like housing for Gotham, jobs for Gotham. This Batman isn't doing that yet because it's year 2.
And they even that reporter character
with the
even
mayor.
acknowledges it. Because she says you're not doing. I can't remember the line, but she says you're not
she
doing
literally
anything.
says, as far as I can tell, you're not doing anything, which is obviously like a ha, he's Batman, but also like it's supposed to make you think like, well, what is Batman like doing,
or what is Bruce Wayne doing? Do you know what I mean? The idea of,
which to me is far more integral to his character than him pretending to be a playboy. Like, to me, the point is Bruce Wayne helps Gotham with his money. And Batman helps Gotham
where the money
when
can't
a fucking clown poisons the water. You know what I mean? I hate that fucking tweet that goes... Someone always makes this tweet. Every couple months it goes viral. Where they're like, when you're an adult, you realise Bruce Wayne could have done more to help Gotham by funding like jobs and housing than by beating up mentally ill people every night. And I'm like, fuck, like, you just don't know Batman, and admit it, because the whole point is he opens like mental health clinics. He tries to like, he is not just going out and fighting people like that's just because in the movies we don't have the time to acknowledge that. But if you actually cared about the character, you would know that.
Of course. And
I like that this movie sort of makes a point where, well, I could see next movie like Gordon or the mayor or someone will point out that like Bruce Wayne funded like the city's rebuilding or something like that.
Again, going back to the point, the thing that gets me so excited about this film is there's so much room to grow. You can go anywhere with this. Like with the sequel, what
if Gotham's still underwater?
Want to do like Killer Croc?
Or Killer Croc. I saw Mr. Freeze. Imagine like
you know what?
He like freezes all the fucking water. Because this movie's very red, right? Imagine the next movie's like super blue in its color palette, and like Mr. Freeze, Killer Croc. You could do anyone like that.
I personally want to see Mr. Freeze next. Just because, like, the only fucking Mr. Freeze we have is Arnold.
I would, and like, he's a sympathetic villain, whereas Riddler's like a booky fucking incel.
He would fit, not in his
Well, and you could do the same with Killer Croc. That's a great shout. I haven't heard anyone mention that, but because the idea is like Killer Croc just had a skin disease and got bullied until like he lost his mind. I love the idea of like doing him like roaming the fucking waterways of Gotham, like. That could be... and like in Earth 1, they do a cool flip on it where Batman's exploring the sewers because he's trying to, like, make the Batcave, and, like, Killer Croc bounces out the water and they have a fight. And then, like, halfway through, Killer Croc's like, what the fuck, man? Like, I'm just a bloke with a skin disease. Like, I'm a normal person. And he sort of becomes, like... He sort of joins Batman's, like... group. It's like him, Alfred, and Killer Croc.
Let's say it was like a
and like with how much of this movie takes from Earth 1, I could see them doing that. But I also wouldn't mind if they did like the ARKHAM Killer Croc, where he's just like a fucking scary monster.
What?
Like he'd be a perfect like sort of like, well, not even a henchman, like a second villain. Like you know, Falcone's in this movie. He's not the main villain,
but he takes a considerable amount of.
It'd be cool if like Killer Croc, if like Mr. Freeze was your main villain and Killer Croc was.
Yeah, well, I think
that's a shout.
It is a very good shout. You have like a section of Gotham which is still underwater, and that's where Killer Croc is. Or like you say, Freeze uses it to his advantage.
Yeah, like
the thing I want to know.
There's so many places, but even if they fixed it, I wouldn't mind, and we just do a villain. Like, there's so many directions you could go.
And the thing I'm curious about is, for the most part, Riddler is a very realistic villain. Like they tone down the zaniness. I want to know how they're going to do that to the other villains, and if they will tone them down. Because the thing is, the Gotham is still very comic-y. Like it's still
because like I saw a lot of people talk about Scarecrow, and I'm not because as much as I like Cillian Murphy's Scarecrow, I'm disappointed we never got him in the costume.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like you could do Like not as your main villain, but I really would love to see like spooky, scary fucking Scarecrow running around. Like, what if the next movie just has a load of bit villains, a bit like this one, where like Gotham's flooded and fucked up, and like the villains have gone mental.
Yeah.
Where like Killer Croc's got this bit of Gotham, Scarecrow's got, and they're not like the focus. Maybe your Mr. Freezes, whoever you want to do. You know, Patterson's talked about Court of Owls. Yeah. I'd rather they're saved a bit later because I think they're a better.
It's just the thing is
experienced Batman.
Yeah.
Because the whole point of Court of Owls is like Bruce Wayne is like, I know Gotham. Like I've been Batman for years. I know Gotham back of my hand. Like I fought Joker. I fought everyone. Like, and then the Court of Owls come out and they're like, yeah, but we really run Gotham.
And there's like been this foundation. They've been around for like years.
Exactly.
In the underground and blah blah blah.
And I think they're more compelling later on. Like, they're cool. If they said we're doing Court of Owls, they could make it work where, like, this Batman is clearly about, like, structural corruption. And what's more corrupt than, like, a bookie fucking cult running, like...
that's been around for years.
Yeah.
Like, they're deep into Gotham.
Just for me, personally, I'd prefer them later on.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I'm not against them doing next movie.
And I want to see something weird. As in, Riddler was just a serial killer. Yeah. Joker will probably be along the same lines. He's just going to be a guy.
Definitely.
I want to see something different because obviously with the Nolan films, we did get Scarecrow, and then we got Joker, who was just a guy, and Bane, who was he weren't really Bane. From the comics.
he was just sort of like a.
They were still grounded down.
They were at the end of the day. Most of them just got reduced to like we're terror. Even if it's in a cool way, like the Joker, it's really cool how they made him like a terrorist.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they're not. The Joker is the closest we get to like here's the character from the comics, and even then they do change him.
Whereas I want to see, like I said, I would love to see Mr. Freeze.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think you can do. I don't know how they would do him, but it's just he's such a complex.
Honestly,
character.
I don't think you've got to check like because the thing I said to you the other day that I really do feel is true is like if you told me this was the origin to the Arkham games, you wouldn't have to change much to make it work. Because even in those games, as heightened and weird as the world is, they make Riddler like a bookie jigsaw killer.
Yeah.
You know. They're not afraid to mix the comic book silliness with the more grounded,
Arkham
world.
Just a side note to talk about Arkham, they do so much right.
Absolutely.
With Batman. Like,
I mean, to me, Arkham is like the pinnacle of like Batman adaptations.
Yeah, it's such a perfect balance. They get Gotham right, they get Arkham right. Batman is perfect. Joker is.
The most iconic.
You can't say there's a more accurate.
Him and Heath Ledger, right? Like,
yeah, it has to be.
It's Mark Hamill or Ledger. But like either of those two.
If you took the Joker from the comics and put him into something, another adaptation, that's what you think of, right? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
He's got the gags, the look, the voice. Like Mark Hamill's just iconic.
I mean, the laugh. We were talking about Ledger's laugh, but like Hamill's laugh is like the Joker laugh, without a shadow of a doubt.
So it's just. Yeah, I don't know. Like you say, and what we were saying earlier about how Gotham feels like a mix of the Arkham games with the Nolan Gotham. All right, so give me your top 3 villains.
In what?
You like to see in the sequel.
I tell you what I really want to see. This is cheating because it's not a villain. I want to see Harvey Dent, but him not become Two-Face. I just want him to be a character for this movie, and then we can do... I would love if... Because obviously one of the people they kill is the district attorney. Yeah. No,
that's a good point. Because obviously they kill the commissioner.
The commissioner, yeah.
Which obviously means Gordon is going to be the commissioner now.
Well, or they'll bump him to captain. Because he's only lieutenant.
True.
So he could either go captain or commissioner.
But it felt like they were same.
Yeah, same.
So then
so the DA, like...
That's a good point. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, because obviously Harvey's the DA. So
and I'm telling you, I don't want him to be Two-Face. Down the line, but I would love if we just got... Maybe you establish he has a darker side or something, but I'd love... A bit like how in year 1, Harvey Dent shows up for like 2 panels and he's just there. Yeah. He's not...
Or like in Batman Returns.
Yeah.
Where he's literally there for a scene.
Yeah, Lando.
Yeah, Lando. Yeah.
Yeah, but literally, I'd love if he was like a proper character, like more than like if we just got a bunch of him and Batman's building their relationship and Gordon in there as well. Like,
it would make it a lot more like, it would mean a lot more if like the characters had a relationship and
absolutely,
bang,
and then
Two-Face.
especially with how much they're clearly inspired by Long Halloween, which is all about Harvey Dent becoming Two-Face.
So who would you cast?
I really don't know. I saw a couple of people say Oscar Isaac. I'm not against that. I love him in every movie, but honestly, you could cast anyone, and I'm here for it. The one casting I saw that I really love was for Mr. Freeze. They were like Bryan Cranston.
I saw that. I also saw Gus.
Gus as well. Either of them I'm with. They're amazing actors.
I don't know who I'd throw. Yeah,
because
they're both like top picks.
Like, let's be real. Gus like plays some of the best villains in TV, and the thing I like about Bryan Cranston is he's both sympathetic and not. Imagine a Mr. Freeze where like you sympathize, like, yeah, your wife is like fucked up and you're trying to help her, but like you're still a dickhead, which is the perfect thing Walter White gets.
The thing is, when I think of Mr. Freeze, I can't help but thinking about the Arkham City one.
Okay.
And the way he acts in that game, I think I can't pronounce his name. Giancarlo. I think he would play that version of Freeze better. Obviously, like
I could see it. I'm with either of them
because he's so cold in Breaking Bad. The way he's just, he barely gives emotion in the way he speaks. I feel like that could be perfect for the Mr. Freeze in this. But again, I wouldn't be upset if it was Bryan Cranston.
Either or.
Both would nail the look as well.
And like, I just trust Matt Reeves where like I could say whoever and I trust him to pick an actor because here, even if I didn't expect it, like Paul Dano is such good casting, man. True. Like Paul Dano's career is him playing like fucking weirdos. Yeah. Like he is an expert at that. Then
I wonder what route they're going to go with the castings because obviously Pattinson wasn't like you wouldn't have predicted that. Like, let's be real. Paul Dano, okay, kind of.
Let's be fair. None of them are like, yes, Pattinson is an A-list actor, but not. Recently he's been more of an indie darling. Like Paul Dano, he's in a lot of indie films. Zoe Kravitz isn't in a lot of movies like that.
And then obviously when you look at, I know we haven't got the Joker yet, but like no one would, if you would have said like top 10 or top 20 people to play, no one would have said Barry Keoghan. So I wonder what route they're going to take with the castings. Are they going to go with like popular opinions, or are they going to go with like more, versatile?
As I said, at the end of the day, I just trust Matt Reeves to pick who he likes. And after the success of this movie, I can't imagine the studio being like, well, actually, we changed our mind. We want to get really involved in the next movie and pick for you.
Yeah. I know it's like, obviously this is like a massive name, but Leo as Two-Face.
That's good. I mean, for ages I was like Leo as Joker, so I could see him especially if they do the Two-Face where he has the split personality. Because as much as I love Dark Knight, they do change that character there, where sort of he shifts, where he goes from like the good person to the bad person, whereas normally Two-Face is literally like
it's seamless,
both together. Yeah. So I could really see them doing that with this
version,
especially as I said, where like they love Long Halloween. Literally, the first murder happens on Halloween. I was like, oh, okay, you guys like. Which is interesting because I've always said, like, I hate how when we make Batman movies, we do the same, like, 4 or 5 comics. We do Long Halloween, Dark Knight Returns, Year One, and Killing Joke. And that's it. Like, those are the 4 comics we look at. But this feels like, no, but I, like, really like Long Halloween.
Yeah.
And, like, wanted to, like, Dark Victory, they take, which is the sequel to Long Halloween, they take a lot of stuff from, like, they take about, like, Batman Ego and Batman Shaman, which are, like, well-known comics if you're into comics. But, like, a stranger aren't going to be like, oh, yeah, I've heard of Batman Shaman. Whereas, like, Year One, they've probably heard of to some degree.
Well, it's like, I would like to see them. Is it Death of the Family where Joker
cuts off his face? Yeah.
I'd like to see them take some stuff of that, especially if they're going to do the Joker. Just where he's in the jumpsuit.
Yeah.
You know.
And as I said, like, just the tone of like that Joker being like, I'm the boogeyman. Like,
and he just, he's just fucked up.
Yeah, like he's just a fucking scary dude.
Yeah.
I agree. I could definitely see them taking from that. I'll be honest, I hope they do Robin in the sequel. I really do.
Yeah, that's the point I was going to make before we took a break. Because we never got a proper Robin.
I was going to say the closest we've got is Chris O'Donnell, who was way too old to be Robin.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely here for it.
The only issue where he's a younger Batman, could you have him have like a...
Normally, Robin comes in about year 3. And if
Right.
this is year 2, I could see... And like... I could see we sort of established Dick Grayson, and it's only in like the last couple of scenes we get Robin. You know what I mean? Like, what if the whole movie is like, it opens, his parents are murdered, Bruce Wayne sort of takes notice of him, and then throughout the movie he sort of is seeing like, is this guy ready to become a vigilante, or like what? I think you could, without necessarily being like, scene 2 is like, I'm Robin. I think you could drag it out and
build up to it
in a perfect way, and like he would fit perfect, especially with this Batman, like where he's so like, especially where this movie does it's kind of been a more modern thing in Batman comics. We've sort of touched on it before when like Grant Morrison, when they wrote Batman, they did this idea of like, what if Bruce Wayne's dad was like a villain, and it turns out by the end of that story arc that like it's not actually his dad, it's like a guy pretending to be his dad. But then like with the Telltale game, we did the idea of like, what if Bruce Wayne's parents are tied into Carmine Falcone, which obviously this movie takes from. I could see the character arc being like, I want to be a better mentor than my family was. Like they compromise now, even though this movie kind of absolves them a bit, where it doesn't go as far as Telltale from memory. I think Telltale goes all the way, that game, where it's like, no, they were fucking involved with the mob, whereas this is sort of like they were, but like they weren't.
And like, again, it still turns out that they're still good people.
They just were, they were human, you know. They were in a bad situation. And I will say, like, I love Carmine Falcone in this. Like, John Turturro is one of my favorite character actors. Like, I love him in everything he pops up in, and I loved how like just sleazy he was. Like every scene he has with Zoe Kravitz, you're just like, oh, what a,
he doesn't even give a shit.
creep.
That's still
like, and just like he's so like, the city's mine.
And he's not like he's not a typical mob boss, as in he's, you know, in a suit and stuff. He's more like, you know, trackies, I'm a fucking sleazy,
like I'm just gonna chill in this club all day, sort of thing.
And play pool. I do like that. But like you say, I would like to see a Robin,
definitely,
because I know we got like half-ass Robin in Rises.
Don't even get me started on that. Like, Robin is integral to the character, and I think it's a shame we just don't do him in movies.
And like,
we either don't have him at all, or like we did he's already dead. Fuck's sake.
But again, it's in the comics. There's like, what, 5 Robins?
Honestly, and like they're integral to Batman's growth as a character, because he becomes a father to some degree to them.
I mean, one is literally his son.
Of course, if we do, like Damian Wayne, but even prior, like Dick Grayson, like Tim Drake, like,
and then obviously the thing with
Jason with him dying, like, I think it's a missed opportunity in the movies. We don't do Robin, and really prevents Batman from growing as a character. So even if we don't do it this movie, I would really like to see Robin at some point. What
are your thoughts on this? They're doing this Arkham spin-off series.
I'm curious. I want to know like what it is,
because originally it was going to be a
Gotham
GCPD
GCPD
series, and then now Matt Reeves has come out and said it's evolved into an Arkham series.
I mean, because he's talking about like that's where we'll see more Barry Keoghan. I'm curious. I just don't know like what's the pitch. Like what is the series about?
And will Batman be in it, or is it going to be? I don't know. Maybe they'll do like how Harley becomes Harley.
I guess because like GCPD, when you tell me you're doing a show, I'm like, I get what that show is. It's like a cop show in Gotham. Like rather than solving a murder every week, we're solving a supervillain every week.
But then
But an Arkham show, I'm sort of like, well, what are they doing? Like, is it just dudes in therapy being fucked up? You know what I mean?
I don't know. Like,
but I will say, I mean, maybe if you do like Arkham Asylum, the graphic novel, like the backstory of Arkham, where like it's this fucked up dude and his family gets like murdered, and like the idea of like madness being like cyclic.
Imagine like every episode was just like, you know, a 1-to-1 session with one of the villains from Batman, and you get their backstory and how they become who they become. Obviously, I don't think it will be that.
But whatever they do with it, as I said, even if the whole thing's a fucking flashback to like 80 years ago when the Arkham man, because they do establish like the Arkhams and the Waynes built Gotham. You could go wherever with that, obviously, and we do the Earth 1 thing again here, where Martha Wayne is an Arkham. Which is interesting to tie Batman into that, and that idea of like, is her madness like hereditary to him? And I'm interested. I could see where it goes, and like where we've got Arkham Asylum. Like, are we going to address that? Like, does Bruce Wayne technically own that? I could definitely see a sequel where like, if we're having Bruce Wayne become more Bruce Wayne, you know, he's funding to like fix Gotham. He's helping this new like idealistic mayor, and maybe like he's trying to get Arkham back so he can make it like a real mental health institute rather than like
just a house
fucked up horror house of fucked up people where they just like leave them to rot.
But it is interesting because obviously now it's established you have Joker and Riddler in there, so like a show, surely you would have to include them.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't know. It really depends where they go. Unless it's called Arkham, but it is about like the police, and like we just see Arkham as like where they send the villains.
Because he said it's evolved into a show
That's
about
what I'm
Arkham.
saying. Like I don't know.
So maybe it is a bit of both. What if it was like set in the 80s?
I'm honestly, whatever they do with it, I'm here for it. Like, I just trust Matt. You know, we're getting the Penguin spin-off. I'm like, cool, a mob thing in Gotham. I think that could be like really exciting.
Well, the thing is, like, just from like our conversation, say it is a 3-movie trilogy, you're not gonna have enough time to do all these characters justice. Yeah,
absolutely.
So them doing shows does make sense. But obviously, because we know, let's be real, one of the films will be Joker.
Yeah, of course.
Probably the third. So
I think that makes sense.
Yeah, so you could probably have another side villain there, 1 or 2. Which really means you've got one more film to do all these other characters.
Yeah. Well, and
so
like,
I wonder,
especially in today's day and age of like cinematic universes, we at the end of the day, HBO Max needs content.
True.
So it makes sense that they're like, But I will say, I love how it doesn't feel forced here. Some superhero stuff you look at, you're like, fucking god, we're setting up like 8 spin-offs, but when they do it here, it's like, I do genuinely want to see more of these characters.
Yeah, well, it's like the thing with Peacemaker and Suicide Squad. You know, it felt like James Gunn had this film, and along the way he was like, you know what, like Peacemaker, what if we had a series about him, rather than whilst he's writing the film, you've got the executives in his ear, why don't you write it like that? Let's be real.
No one was like, we need a Peacemaker show.
Yeah. None of the executives were like, yeah, but what if you made like a show about Peacemaker? Yeah. And it feels like it's the same with the Batman, where, you know, they're like, why don't we explore this and flesh this out in a show? Definitely. Rather than them being told, you have to make 3-4 shows based on the Batman.
Or even if they did, it just feels like Matt Reeves is good enough at it that like,
it will feel natural.
Feels natural without it being like, oh my god, we're doing
we have to make.
You know, it's not like a Sony thing.
Yeah.
Where you're like, what? We're doing a spin-off that's not even connected to like anything. Like, what are we doing here?
Morbius.
have you seen the fucking leaks about that?
Yeah, it sounds like a fucking plane
disaster.
Crash. Like,
who could have seen that coming?
Morbius. Because what is it? It's like the thing I read was
they're in an alternate universe, but he still knows about Spider-Man, but we don't know which Spider-Man
is.
Except it's in the Venomverse, so it can't be Tobey Maguire.
It's in the Venomverse. Michael Keaton now gets teleported in
somehow
from the the beams from No Way Home, but he teleports in his prison jumpsuit. But there's another scene where he turns up in his Vulture tech, which was Atari tech from the MCU.
If none of us see this movie, none of us have to acknowledge it exists, is all I'm saying.
But like, where are they going to go with it?
I think they're trying to get Andrew Garfield to come back, and they want to do like all that bullshit they were trying to do before, but now people care about it, I guess.
Because of No Way Home. Like,
yeah.
Well, the thing is, no matter what happens now, you like, as long as it's Andrew Garfield in a Spider-Man film, it doesn't matter if it's Morbius, Venom, fucking all their shitty films. As long as you have Andrew Garfield, it's gonna sell. So
because like the disappointment I saw people expressing, where they were like, oh, when it came out that like there are no Spider-Men in this movie, they were like, I can't believe there's no Spider-Man in Morbius, and I'm like, but then, were you gonna watch it if there were?
But also now they're doing a Madam Web film with Dakota Johnson
and someone else, where I was like, really?
So does that count as the Spider-Man in there,
the funny thing is, they had the perfect movie to do a million spin-offs from. It's called Spider-Verse.
Yeah
like, people loved that movie. And like, if you told me you're doing a Spider-Verse TV show, I wouldn't be like, what?
That would be perfect for a TV show.
You could do any
perfect,
or a spin-off movie about any. You could do a Spider-Gwen spin-off. You could do the Peter Parker spin-off. You could do a whole Miles movie where it's not a Spider-Verse and it's just a Miles movie. I don't know, man. I hate how Spider-Man's just fucked up by these rights issues, like almost beyond repair at this point. I feel like every movie has to be some fucking crossover, or like, we can't just do Spider-Man.
Yeah, and then at the same, it also feels like, Marvel have to keep Sony happy.
Yeah, exactly.
So like, they have to give them leeway. They have to let them use like Michael Keaton's Vulture. Like, what is that about? So does that mean we're not going to get Michael Keaton in any more Tom Holland films?
Are we even getting more Tom Holland films? I don't know, because no one remembers it.
They've been hyping the free, the college trilogy.
Yeah, but is that real?
I mean, they will make more.
I mean,
No Way Home.
Yeah, but will they be Marvel movies?
I think so. I think we'll at least.
I mean, I do hope, because I do like Tom Holland in the role. I just
at this point, I don't know.
I don't know. Just No Way Home didn't connect with me personally, so I'm not really. I don't really care. I don't know. To me, I've just accepted like Spider-Man's fucked up. Like where Sony and Marvel both want to use him, just like it's gonna be a mess. Like, even if we do a college trilogy, is it actually gonna be like here's just 3 Spider-Man movies, or is it gonna be like here's a Spider-Man movie, he's got a crossover with Shang-Chi this movie, and then next movie he'll cross over with
Captain Marvel.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
even the way we're gonna get Venom now, it's like that came from the Sonyverse though. So like, credit us.
Because the funny thing, like in the comics, he goes to this planet and gets the symbiote.
Yeah.
If only we'd had Spider-Man on another planet in one of these movies. Like, I don't know.
Fucking Infinity War.
Like, imagine that he goes there and gets like grabbed, or like when he comes in through the portal, he's got the black suit, and then in his movie we get to explain that like when he reappeared, he like was looking for Tony and he found like the suit and it grabbed him. Like, nah. No, we ain't doing that.
Creativity. Are you stupid?
We've also got to tie in Tom Hardy's Venom movie,
but then it's like he's not going to be the Venom in Tom Holland's films.
This
so what is the point? It's just.
Which, thank God, by the way, I didn't want to see like a 40-year-old man fight what's supposed to be a teenager.
Well, yeah, it's like a comedic, Venom. I don't know how would it even work, because like he's very much a hero.
Why does Venom act like he knows Spider-Man in that one scene? In the after credits,
and then he like spends the whole film drinking at a bar. Like, what's he doing then? Whilst he's telling me it wasn't on the news that there's 3 Spider-Men fighting.
No, because everyone forgot. Let's stop talking about this movie and get back to the Batman, an actually good movie. Oh, we haven't talked about like Alfred at all. I think. What were your thoughts on him?
I thought he was good.
I liked him. I just wish we got a couple more scenes with him.
Yeah.
Personally, I feel like if he had died, I wouldn't have like cared.
It feels like every Batman series now, he is getting younger.
Yeah,
they're like doing the thing with Aunt May.
Yeah.
Whereas obviously with Jeremy Irons in the Snyderverse, who was that? I don't know. Well, I guess.
Well, and like, you know, obviously this movie takes a lot from Earth 1, which is where Bodyguard Alfred comes from, but also like, I feel like the Batman movies are like, we need Alfred to do something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he can't just help Bruce. He can't just be a father figure to Bruce. He's got to do something.
But
and I
liked his role in this one.
I like that he tries to help with the ciphers and stuff.
He tries to help, like, obviously the first one he doesn't quite get, but the fact that he is helping.
Yeah.
And I like their relationship.
And I will say they are boxed in the sense that, like, Michael Caine was the perfect butler Alfred.
Yeah.
If you're not doing butler,
what do you do?
You know what I mean? You have to make him younger and more proactive.
Because Jeremy Irons was literally just like, if you merged Oracle with Alfred, or he's just on the headset, you know?
Yeah, literally.
And this one feels like a balance where he's not so involved. And
he does try and...
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. If he's present whilst he's doing something, he gets involved.
Definitely. Yeah, I did like him. As I said, I just wish I got more of a chance to care about him. I do really like that scene in the hospital together, but as I said, if he had died, I wouldn't have been like, oh no. I just would have been like, oh, weird choice to kill Alfred.
Seeing as we're talking about characters, what about Gordon?
I love fucking Jeffrey Wright knocked it out the fuck. Once again, one of my favorite character actors there is. He fucking killed. Like, him and Patterson's chemistry is like perfect.
Amazing. Yeah.
Like, just do a Gordon spin-off. Do like what Gordon was doing the first year.
But then I think that's what the GCPD show is.
That's what I hope it is.
Yeah. But then it's like, is that not just Gotham?
No, but this one, like, we actually like. Like, just do year one. Do everything. Do all of year one where, like, he joins the police force. Do him having an affair on his pregnant wife. Do all of it. Just do year one, because, like, this Gordon feels, like, so perfect.
Have him, you know, have a few storylines in Arkham.
Yeah.
Where it leads him to Arkham.
Have him have an older daughter who you can set up as Batgirl or Oracle. Either or, I'm with. You could do James Gordon Jr., where his son's a fucking serial killer.
I know, like you were saying earlier, like, Killing Joke is the comic they go to all the time. But if we get that in with this Joker, where, you know, they set up Gordon's daughter, and
have her be paralyzed and become Oracle.
Weird scene where Barry Keoghan's Joker turns up in a floral shirt with his face, just shoots her in the spine.
Yeah. Like, honestly, like, he was so good in this role. Like, Jeffrey Wright, like, which is funny because, like, you know, Gary Oldman was great in the role. You know, it's not like I was like, oh man, the Dark Knight movies could have had a better Commissioner Gordon.
No,
like,
he was great. He was great as Gordon.
He was perfect, and somehow this movie managed to be, like, more perfect. I don't know what it was. I think it was just their, like,
the chemistry they had.
Yeah, the chemistry between the two of them, where, like,
where he knows his unit is probably like 70% corrupt.
Like that scene in the fucking jail, or not the jail, in the police station, where he's like, we need to get you out of here. Perfect. And like their whole the like little jokes they make to each other. I loved how, like, Batman's not, like, on the run from the police, but they don't like him. Yeah. Like, I love that Gordon's, like, the one guy they let fuck with Batman.
Well, it feels very much like if Gordon isn't there, he probably wouldn't be able to be at the crime scenes, which I like. Again, like you're saying, he's the one link he has with the police department, and it feels very much the same way for Gordon, where, like,
definitely,
you know, Batman is the only one he can trust. He doesn't even trust his own police
literally,
department.
if Batman wasn't there, he wouldn't be able to, like, solve crimes,
do what he does,
do his job,
because he very much, like, goes outside the box as well. Like, the thing with Penguin, where they literally just fucking interrogate him.
Just, like, as I said, I knew like I liked Jeffrey Wright anyway, but I was amazed by like how much I loved him in the role, even though I was like, yeah, he'll be great, but you know, it's hard to live up to Gary Oldman's Gordon because I felt like they got him pretty perfect. But yeah, just I don't know, just the chemistry between the two of them felt so like authentic, and the like. Let's talk about the humor of this movie, because I've seen a lot of people criticize it for like it's joyless. This movie has a great sense of humor. Like, there's so much like sarcastic, dry humor in here. Like, they have the fucking Riddler be like, "Hey guys, thanks for tuning into my last video." Like, this is a funny movie when it wants to be, and I think, you know, the MCU's made people think that there's only a certain way we can do
humor. It has to be on the nose,
and it has to be constant.
I
like that this movie was sort of like, there's gonna be jokes because like, there's a kind of fucking batsuit. At the end of the day, like, it's a silly concept, but the movie is serious. You know, the thumb drive thing's pretty funny, in a dark way, like in a not just in a like, like that happened. You know, the MCU style, like we all crack, like something serious happens, then someone's got to crack a joke because we're worried like you'll take the movie too seriously.
If that happened in the MCU, you'd have a character go, "Thumb drive, seriously?" Like blah blah blah. Like, I get what you mean.
Like I as I said, I think this movie has a good sense of humor. It just like doesn't overdo it, which I'm glad. Like,
but it shouldn't.
Yeah,
it's not meant to be
don't
funny.
Have to be like, take a movie on its own terms. I remember when Dune came out, I saw a couple of reviews where it's like there's no humor, and I'm like, because it's not a funny story. Like, not everything needs a joke every 5 minutes.
Well, that's where the MCU films have ruined it, because the thing with the MCU films is they have a serious plot line and they just make it funny. So now when you watch a film with a serious plot line, you expect humor.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the problem the sequels ran into with Star Wars. Where like they dial the originals have jokes, like,
but it's
the
not
fucking scene in episode 4 where Han like runs in a hangar full of fucking stormtroopers. Like, there is humor, and a lot of silly humor, especially like Jar Jar steps in the poop. In the prequels,
especially with the prequels, but
it's not the same kind of like witty dialogue where it's not actually clever. It's just like, hey, I'm pointing out that this silly thing is silly.
You have characters specifically just there
to make jokes.
Yeah, I don't know, because like, it's going back to the MCU thing. It's like Endgame, like half the world got snapped,
and we make it into a clip show where like we travel around and makes, hey, remember this movie? It's just a joke. So there's literally a joke in there where they do the scene from Avengers where they knock Loki down, they're all posing, and we see them be like, okay, let's stop posing, guys. You know, I mean, it's just so like,
it's silly.
Not everything needs to be a fucking joke.
And I get like that's what the MCU is now. Well, okay, that's fine. But then you it's like when people say, "Oh, but the DC universe is dark." Like, but is it? Because like Suicide Squad was hilarious.
I was gonna say,
and that's better than like 90% of Marvel.
The Suicide Squad.
The Suicide Squad. Yeah.
James Gunn's one.
Suicide
like,
Squad.
But the humor there is still different to a Marvel humor, where it's like kind of grim. Like, you laugh because you're like, "Oh, that's nasty."
You
know what I mean? When they're all getting fucked up at the start of the movie, you're like, "This is kind of funny," but like,
it's like dark humor.
It's which obviously is like what he kind of started with Guardians, but taken to like an extreme, where like Guardians
he's actually given freedom
to
do what he wants. No, I don't know. That's such a good comparison when you look at the Suicide Squad and Guardians. Well,
because I mean, at the end of the day, they're the same director.
But then when you look at the differences,
for sure,
and also similarities, because they are similar in a lot of ways. But
I mean, they're still about a team of dysfunctional people learning to be like a family and cooperate. It's just like you said, the DC one has so much more freedom to it, which I think I might prefer the Suicide Squad to Guardians just for that, in that it feels like James Gunn really got to make a movie he wanted to make.
And I like that. I've heard he's come out and said he didn't even watch like the Harley Quinn film. Like they didn't go to him, you have to remember this from this film.
And I feel like the same is true of the original Suicide Squad, where it feels like I'm sure he watched it, but I don't think he was like, man, okay, I got to follow up on like what's Enchantress doing. Like, I need her and Rick Flag to be in a relationship like this.
No,
it is a reboot.
Yeah,
it isn't, but it is. At the end of the day, it is a reboot where like that last movie. I mean, I watched it with my parents recently, and
what, the original,
the new one.
Oh, the new one,
and they hadn't seen the original, and there was no point where they were like, "Wait, who's that?"
Which is perfect.
Yeah,
it should how it's how it should have been.
Absolutely,
because it works. Because if for whatever reason you like the original Suicide Squad, if you can still be like, you know, it's technically
I mean, it does follow up on like Rick Flag and Amanda Waller and that, like they are still there. As you said, if for some reason you like that movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, who else haven't we talked? Oh, we haven't talked about Catwoman.
What? Yeah. No. As Catwoman, what did you think though? Seriously,
honestly, like straight off the page, like she is. Yeah. I saw people criticize her, and I'm like, you just don't like the character of Catwoman at the end, because she is like more than anyone else in this movie. There's no reinvention. The only difference is she's not white. Like at the end of the day, if you're saying she's not comic accurate, literally the difference is her skin color. Like that is it.
Yeah.
Like she is, because like Patterson, obviously they make him a bit of an edgelord. Penguin, they make like fucking like Cockney, you know what I mean? Everyone has kind of a twist on them, but she is just comic book Selena Kyle straight off the page. Like she is perfect. We don't do any we don't make her fucking mental like doing Batman Returns. The Halle Berry one, let's not even get into. You know, even the Nolan one sort of like flip around a bit. We get rid of the cats for one thing, which is always a negative. I love that this is just this is Selena Kyle through and through. As I said, honestly, like straight off the page, I thought she was perfect. Like even outside of the fact that like I started barking at the screen like Pop Smoke when she was there. Like even that aside, like just perfect casting. I will admit I was the only thing going in, I was a bit like, I'd seen the shots of her with the balaclava, and I was like, you've got her in the Catwoman suit, but like the cat ears are too far. Like what? But it worked in the scene for me. Maybe because she only wears it like twice.
I love her relationship with Bruce. How like, you know, she's when he sends her into the club, and then she's got to chat up the
Gil's crumbling.
And he's like rubbing her legs and he's tweaking.
He's like, I like you.
He's like, and then he's like waiting for her outside and shit. Like,
and like
I get it.
all you people that have a lot to say about comic accurate Batman, all I'm saying is there were a lot of gasps in that cinema when it turned out she was Carmine's daughter, even though like that's just like a well-established thing. And I love that we just did that. Like their first scene together, I was like, oh my god, we're doing that. She is Carmine's like bastard daughter that he doesn't acknowledge. Like I loved, like as I said, like there is nothing there where I was like, why'd you change that? Like even if I liked the change, sometimes you'll be like, I like the change, but like you didn't need to change it. You know, I like I loved her whole like how she shows Bruce this like the underbelly of Gotham, where like all these people that are being like left behind by the system and like used and abused,
and she feels like she's a representation of that.
Definitely.
Do you know what I mean?
You know, there's that line all the incels cried about, where she says like all these rich white people who don't care about us. Like I thought just like perfect. Like as I said, there was nothing there. Like they get her being a thief, but also like she's not just a criminal. Like she does have like you know, like in real life, she has her reasons for committing these crimes, and like as I said, it was just like perfect. I loved that her and Bruce had like. I've seen people say they didn't have chemistry. I disagree. I think they had a lot of chemistry.
No, definitely. I think what it is because of Bruce's character, he's a bit more quiet,
stoic.
It doesn't give it away.
You know? But like, come on, we all know he was crying in that last scene. The last scene of the movie is him like looking in his mirror to see if she's gonna turn back. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
and like, you know, no, come on, because like when he thinks it's her at the church.
Yeah, he like
Carmine,
loses his mind.
Yeah, he's like bugs. He's like shit, not my babe.
Well, and like, how I will say like, how has she not got a spin? I would love to see like her just doing fucking heists.
I mean, I imagine they're going to use her for the sequels. Surely.
Maybe like I think once again a bit like where we're talking about with joke, they've left it open where like we can either like bring her back or like leave her for a movie then bring her back. We can do whatever we like. You know, we're not boxed in where it's like you need to set up Catwoman for the sequel where she'll show up and it's sort of like we told the story with Catwoman. We might bring her back, or we might have her do her own thing. And
yeah, I mean the thing is, where there's so much potential with where they can go with it, like you say, if they set up these characters to sort of like be allies to Batman, they can do their own thing with other villains rather than using them for Batman villains.
Yeah, definitely.
So like you say, if Catwoman, even if she's in the second or third film, but she has like a sub arc where she's just, I don't know, beefing with Riddler.
Or like a
Two-Face.
A spin-off show where like she's doing a heist and like the heist is like she's robbing, I don't know, Black Mask or Scarecrow or something.
Yeah.
Like a villain we wouldn't give a whole movie to, but like I still want him in the universe. And Batman can show up for his obligatory like final episode cameo so Twitter can lose its mind.
Yeah.
You know, that sort of thing.
I wonder if they'll do characters like Black Mask. Especially since we've got them.
I was gonna say I think he would work because we've done so much like mob stuff. Someone like that.
Obviously, we got him in the Harley Quinn film. We
did do him
with
in
Ewan
McGregor.
McGregor.
I forgot about that.
And he was great in that.
Yeah, he's great in that. But he is also quite a different take on that. I could see them doing, because normally Black Mask is like the guy that like unites the mob after Carmine dies. He brings all the families and it's like, we're not doing crime, family, Godfather shit. We're just doing like, we're one business.
Yeah.
You all work for me and we're one criminal enterprise.
But maybe they could use him as, like you say, the replacement.
Yeah,
the
like,
mob
or like he's beefing Penguin, like they're beefing over territory.
Yeah.
But you could do any, like, you know what I mean? This film is so open-ended. Like you could tell me you're doing Ra's al Ghul, but you're doing it like the Lazarus pits and stuff this time, and I would be excited. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I wonder how they're going to tackle that. Because do they mention that he's trained? With the
No,
shadows?
they just say that Alfred trained him. They don't get into like if he trained elsewhere, which I think leaves it open to you could do either. You could do Azrael. There's so many ways you could go with like Bruce and like his backstory and like tying it in. As we've said, Court of Owls already.
See, a popular one I keep saying is Hush. And at first, I don't know how, but people thought that scene with Riddler was Hush.
Well, because they mention Elliot is the surname of the reporter that died, and Thomas Elliot is Hush's name, and it literally says Hush on the script because it says Hush Money. And I was like, I think you guys are reading it. Like, number one, Thomas Elliot is like Bruce Wayne's like best friend from childhood normally. So it wouldn't make sense that he's like the son of this. I don't know. I mean, obviously you could reinvent it and do however you like, but Hush also isn't like a deep villain. The only reason people like the comic book Batman Hush is because Jim Lee draws the absolute fuck out of that comic, and it is the most beautiful shit I've seen in my life. But Hush himself is like nothing. He's just sort of the guy that gets all the villains together.
Yeah.
And in the end, it's not even him, it's Riddler. Which is sort of, I think, why they referenced Hush, because it is a Riddler story where he figures out that Bruce Wayne is Batman.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. I've seen the Hush talk. I like the idea of doing like a Batman villain that's like him, has been with him since childhood, but I don't know. He's not one where I'm like, yes, let's do Hush.
Yeah, same.
There's so many villains we haven't done yet. I would rather see, or have done but not done in a like very comic accurate way.
And like I said, going back to like Freeze, we still haven't. I mean, at least in a live action sense, like the only adaptation we got was fucking
Arnie cracking ice puns. Well, I mean, same with like Poison Ivy. I would be happy to see her.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Come in, I mean, the whole city's flooded. You could have Buki plants start fucking go. Like, there's so many ways you could go with it. Yeah,
in the thing,
and especially with like how inspired by Seven is. Imagine like, you know, the scene in Seven where they go and they raid the apartment, and the guy's there with all the air fresheners, and he turns out to be alive. Imagine that, but he's wrapped in like Buki fucking plants and like roots and thorns. Like, I don't know. I feel like there's so many villains we could do in such a unique, cool way, however they want, but whoever they announce, I'm going to be like sick.
Yeah.
Because this movie proved like they don't need to be the focus. Because I remember when they were announcing the cast and I was like, so we got Riddler, we got Penguin, we got Catwoman, and we got Carmine Falcone. Like, this seems like a very full movie.
But it just worked, didn't it? Because, I mean, Penguin, I feel like he worked perfectly as the side villain. I mean, in a sense, he's not really a villain. He's just kind of there.
Yeah,
he's the guy to interrogate.
Yeah.
To get the actual bad guy. And then even Riddler takes like a back seat for like half an hour of the film when they're doing the stuff with Falcone.
I was going to say, before they know it's Falcone, when they're sort of looking for the rat.
Yeah, so... El Rat. Yeah, I mean, again, they could do the exact same thing with a sequel, where you have...
The movie could open with Bruce like fucking up somebody, a bit like how Dark Knight opens up with him beating up Scarecrow. You know what I mean? Like, you know, the idea that Gotham's like just fucked at the moment and he's trying to do his best.
It does feel like they're setting up Riddler for another arc.
Maybe. I could see that, because obviously he's left with Joker.
Yeah, and it feels like Joker is fueling him. Like,
yeah, but I mean, I could see it like Joker just like takes his ideas and escapes Arkham.
Maybe, or uses him to escape Arkham.
Yeah,
which would be like a very Joker thing.
Definitely
just manipulates him.
Well, and because this is the thing where people saying like you didn't need the Joker scene with Riddler. I think it does well to close Riddler's arc, because obviously Riddler is like, I'm a lonely incel. I have a community. Oh no, my community got fucked up. I like that we end it with like he's left in this place with this guy that's like, I'm your friend, but like
anyone
it's
who
the
knows
Joker.
Yeah, anyone
like, he's
who
gonna
knows
just
the Joker.
use him.
Yeah, true.
I do think
and
it works.
I like
well,
how easily he manipulates him as well, because like Riddler, he's not presented as stupid.
Yeah,
and it just shows
he's
how
lonely. At the end of the day.
But again, it just shows how like smart this
Yeah.
character is of Joker. Like, you know, to him it's nothing to manipulate.
Yeah, like he just immediately is like, and it does work well if you know the deleted scene, because Joker's kind of jealous that like Batman's so interested in him that he's like, well, let me fuck with this guy. Now that like we've got him, like he's no threat anymore. Like, let me show him why like I'm Batman's nemesis.
Yeah.
Which I think is quite a cool way to go with it. I don't know, that there's just this is the most excited I've been coming out of a superhero movie in forever. Because even if I've enjoyed superhero movies, like as much as I love The Suicide Squad, I didn't come out of it like, when's the sequel?
Yeah, because it didn't feel like you need one.
Whereas this, like, it managed to be a complete movie, but also I'm so excited to see the rest of...
Yeah. But the thing with Marvel films, I know like a lot of the time we're shitting on the Marvel films, but if you told me right now, confirmed, we're getting Venom in the next Marvel film, I'd have a very good idea of what it would be like and what it would be going for. If tomorrow it came out, you know, we're getting Clayface in the next Batman film, I would have no idea how they're going to do it. Genuinely,
because like, do they do where like in Arkham where he's a Buki morphin, almost like Sandman type thing?
Yeah.
Or do they do the OG Clayface where it's just a dude that like puts on makeup and is a murderer?
Yeah.
Like he can't like transform or anything. He just like is good at makeup. Like you could do either of those and it would fit.
And even if you told me which one they were going for, I still wouldn't. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I know.
Where there's so much more creativity and freedom, it's hard to pin, and that's what's getting me excited. Like, what are they gonna do next?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, same thing with this, where like, okay, they're doing Zodiac Riddler. I thought I knew what that would be, but then they flipped it and did, as I said, this whole like incel, bookie, deep web community Riddler, like that I was just not expecting. Like
cult leader.
Yeah. And we've got to talk about, like, this has the 2 best Batman entrances of any movie. The first scene where he like walks out of the dark, and when he fucking blows through the roof of the arena to fuck up all the Riddler. Every time I've seen it, it just gets me so fucking hyped. Where I'm like, yes, Batman, fuck these guys up.
Yeah, and again, going back to the Batmobile scene, like
that's it.
The sounds of that it made, and but what was going on with the thing he put in his leg when he saw Catwoman?
Is it adrenaline or venom?
I saw a few people say venom.
Because it is green. I don't know what colour adrenaline is in real life.
But then it's like, how are they going to spin that?
Well, normally, because Venom exists before Bane.
Yeah.
There's a comic called Batman Venom where, like, he just sort of gets hooked on this, you know, it's a metaphor for drug abuse, where, like, he gets hooked on this.
Who does, Batman?
Yeah, because Batman, I think he tries to save, like, a little girl, but he's not strong enough to lift the rubble, so she dies. So he's like, I need to be strong. So he starts taking this drug called Venom, which makes him strong, and like he starts to get like too violent, and in the end he like locks himself in the cave for like 2 weeks and like goes through withdrawal and like loses his fucking mind, and then like comes out of it Batman. And then years, I think that's in the 80s, and it's not till the 90s we get Bane, where like Bane comes in and he takes Venom to be strong or stronger. So I could see us doing sort of a similar thing here, where Batman's pushing himself, he's taking Venom, and like...
Because it was very interesting how they specifically cut, and you see...
It's green.
And like, well, he doesn't take it for the whole film, but at this specific point...
And he seems so reluctant.
Yeah, and then it literally, like you say, it makes him like fucking a tank. And like you say, going back to that, he gets like so violent. Well, like, he has to be stopped.
My thing when I saw it was, I was like, oh, that's fair. Like, because I'd seen before, like, those people that try and like vague spoiler tweets, and it still ends up being a spoiler, where they were like, it's adrenaline, not venom. If you know, you know. And then, like, when I watched the movie, I was like, I don't know if adrenaline's green though. And like,
and why
there's
would
no
it
way
be?
you make a Batman movie, have him inject a green substance that makes him super violent, and don't go, people might think this is venom.
I mean, again, maybe it's the same idea of he put it in there to be like, if we want to use it, we will, and then we can say it was there from the beginning, or like...
Absolutely.
So
like, you know, next movie could open with like, he's really abusing Venom because like there's so many fucking criminals that he needs to keep on top of, or they could never reference it again, and you wouldn't be like, well, what was up with that?
Yeah.
And once again, I didn't take, even though if they did Venom, I didn't take it as like, we're gonna get Bane.
Wonder what how they would do Bane though.
Yeah, I don't know.
Cast as Bane. Give me like fucking John Cena.
Yeah, I don't know what you would do with Bane, because as many changes as Rises makes, he is like sort of Bane in that. Like, I don't know how different.
But he doesn't take Venom.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. As much as it changes stuff like that, character-wise, he is like, he's a smart,
intelligent,
and like we've already seen Batman get his back broken. If you're not having Bane break his back, why are you doing Bane?
Yeah.
No offense to the Bane stance there, but I just don't know where you would go with that necessarily. But yeah, I feel it's very telling that I feel like in our discussion of Batman, we've mostly talked about the future, for how excited we are. You know what I mean? Like, to me, it stands out that like, this is a movie I really care about where we go. The last time I was this excited, I think, was like Homecoming, where I was like, we could go in so many ways, and then we just didn't.
And then we got fucking No Way Home.
And fucking, yeah, like, just, I don't know what happened there. It felt like we were setting up so much. You know, we had like the Prowler show up and reference Miles, and you're like, oh shit, are we gonna like establish Miles?
Get him, like, we had Childish Gambino as...
How did we not get him go through like or each movie he becomes the Prowler, and the third one he could have been the Prowler in the purple suit and everything.
You have Donald Glover, like one of the most talented people working, and you just don't use him.
You literally had the Scorpion show up and talk to Vulture about like, let's fuck up Spider-Man, and we never revisit that again.
And then what did we do? The fucking Eternals, or whatever they're called, the Elementals. I
was gonna say the Eternals. They don't be Spider-Man. But yeah, like, just what a strange direction that series went in. I really don't get how we did like 5 villains in that final movie, and none of them are Tom Holland villains.
Why has no one talked about the fact that Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin and Tobey Maguire don't say a word to each other?
I've seen a couple tweets where people be like, that sucked. And my brother the other day, he said the same thing, where he's like, I didn't really enjoy the movie. I was kind of disappointed that like you have their nemesis and they never.
But like the fact that Willem Dafoe was the main villain of the film and he has nothing to interact with Tobey. The only thing he does is stab him.
Because let's be real, performance-wise, if you put that aside, I love Willem Dafoe.
Yeah.
If it was the shitty Green Goblin from Amazing Spider-Man 2, would it be any different?
As in?
Like the plot.
What do you mean? What?
Like if it had been him instead of Dafoe, would it have made a difference? Because either way, he doesn't really interact with any of the Spider-Men outside of Tom Holland. He tries to kill Spider-Man's girlfriend. Like, plot-wise, it didn't need to be Dafoe. Like, I'm glad they picked Dafoe because he's an amazing fucking actor. But, you know, I mean, like, on that level, because he doesn't interact with Tobey Maguire, it could have been any Green Goblin.
Yeah.
It could have been Green Goblin from this universe, and you introduce him some way.
But that's why it was. But that's what makes it weirder, because like you've used Willem Dafoe. Yeah. So why doesn't he interact with Tobey? Because it's the same character.
And him and Tobey have like he views Tobey as his son in that movie.
Yeah, but like there's nothing like at least with Electro and that when they enter and they see Andrew, they have like a few
that
lines.
Really out of character scene where they like talk like normal people to
Andrew. But at least
at least they have something.
You have the first, because it was significant, he's the first live action Spider-Man villain.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and you even have him interact by stabbing him, but you still have nothing. You don't get a line. You don't go, yeah, that was for, you know.
Well, and like we vaguely reference Harry. You know, I mean, like, there's nothing that really ties.
Yeah, but even worse.
It's turned into a No Way Home review, but this is my issue with all the villains: is there's nothing that really ties them to those original characters outside of like one line of dialogue. Like Electro is a different character,
and they don't even
explain a different character.
But
even Alfred Molina to some degree is like a totally different character.
But the thing is, even he interacts with Tobey Maguire, and it feels more.
Like that is one of the stronger scenes because you're like, oh yeah,
like I remember this. Cool callback, bro.
That's that whole movie though. At the end of the day, cool callback.
Yeah, I mean, that's
that's the. But I mean that's something I feel a lot of Marvel stuff is suffering from at the moment, where it sort of feels like
cameos.
Yeah, and like we don't really have a direction. You know, before we were building to Thanos. I'm not saying we need like to be building to Galactus or whatever, but just some idea of like the world where we're going. Because even stuff like Civil War and like the Accords that stuck around, it mattered. I just don't feel that way anymore. Like in Shang-Chi, the world almost ends. It doesn't really matter.
But this is the thing, because if you don't have an overall plot point to build for throughout your films, what's the point of having a cinematic universe?
Yeah, genuinely.
Because then you could just be like, this is doing something, this is doing something. Yeah, but they don't need to connect. Yeah. Because like the thing with the DC films now, it's like you don't need to have them in the cinematic universe. Yeah, and it's working. But like, what's the point of Marvel doing it?
It's sort of like what we were talking about the other episode, where we were like, what's the point in bringing back Keaton if you're not making 89 and that canonical? Like if it's just the actor, why do I care? Like
the only thing, because it's fan service.
Like that's it's just
the
like,
only thing.
I remember Michael Keaton. I liked him, but but I like those movies, and like if those movies don't matter, why
use him?
Why use anyone?
Yeah.
That I think that's but obviously Marvel are unique in that their cinematic universe has been going longer than anyone else's, so no one else is having these issues.
Yeah, and obviously where it's never been done, I mean, no one really has the right to say what's right or wrong.
Yeah, like what's the blueprint?
Yeah, but it felt like that because the thing with the old MCU films, even though like you watch like Thor: Dark World and like the world nearly ends and no one shows up, but the thing that still matters is they're building towards Thanos.
Well,
every film has like a loose
and like
mention.
The scale of the world almost ending has gone up. Like in Thor: Dark World, the world almost ends, but it's like in Greenwich, so like I can buy no one got there quickly enough. In Eternals, the world, you've not seen it. No joke, like a giant the size of like India comes out of the ocean. Like his hand is like the size of a country, comes out the ocean, and like no one shows up.
What is he though? Like
he's a celestial.
A celestial.
He's like hatching out of the world, and like they're trying to stop him. And I'm like, where the fuck is like Doctor Strange? Like I never have that, because normally I'm very good at like, this is this person's movie. Like at the end of the day, other people aren't going to show up. But like when literally the world is collapsing in on itself, like where the fuck is Doctor Strange when a celestial's eating the planet? Like, I mean, you could that to me is like an Avengers level threat.
I mean, you could say the same thing about Spider-Man.
But at least like Doctor Strange is there.
Yeah.
I can buy like no one else knows what's going on.
I know, and like you say, it's a bit unfair because I get you can't just have every actor in every film. Like, I understand.
Yeah, and if you did, you would be pissed off because like,
what's the point?
I mean, half the complaint with the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies is like, I want Spider-Man. I don't want all this other bullshit.
But the thing with Spider-Man is it's easier to do because he like starts off as like the in between of street level and
definitely.
Avenger.
Well, and he's always Spider-Man always crosses over. Like I've seen people, Spider-Man's a loner. He is, but like Marvel team up ran for like 2 decades, and that book was literally every issue Spider-Man teams up with another Marvel character. Like that, he is the mascot at the end of the day. Like he's Marvel's biggest character. Of course he's gonna cross over with fucking whoever. Yeah. Bit like nowadays, Batman will show up like wherever,
But it's the point degree. That I want a solo Spider-Man thing first.
Yeah,
before
definitely.
You start teaming him up.
Especially when he's so young. Like this guy's a child. Let him learn his lessons on his own, and then build to him doing whatever.
Don't you think it's crazy though? Like we've had a trilogy of Spider-Man films, and it feels like we haven't had Spider-Man.
Yeah, because retroactively we pretended this was all an origin for that character, even though
it feels like
wasn't.
It's 3 films that like equates to 1.
Definitely.
Like I can bet you now, like in 2 films times with the Batman, like you'll look back and go, "Wow, like, we got a lot."
Well, and like
in this,
the Batman makes a point of he might look like Batman, but he's not Batman yet. Yeah. This Spider-Man movies didn't do that till the 3rd one, where we pretended like that was the goal all along. Whereas this is all about like him going from a vigilante to a superhero. It will feel weird if next movie he's like, I'm vengeance.
But then it's weird because in Homecoming you get, he gets a suit taken. He uses the made up suit that he makes. Then he gets a suit back. So it's like, he's Spider-Man.
He's Spider-Man.
But then the next film, you don't get that.
It's sort of like the Daniel Craig James Bonds do this. Every one of his movies for like the first 3 or 4 ends with it being like, and now he's James Bond. Like he's been learning to be James Bond throughout the movie, but like
this is it.
Like Casino Royale ends with him literally doing the name's Bond, James Bond line, and you're like, he's now James Bond. And then the next movie's like, no, but he hasn't healed from his trauma, so like he spends a whole movie doing that, and then it ends and it's like, he's healed from his trauma, he's now James Bond. And then Spectre opens and it's like he's old and washed, and like he comes back, and by the end of the movie, like it's the classic Office and like all the classic characters are there, and it's like he's now James Bond, and you're like, oh my god. Like that's the flip of it, where you're just every movie like, okay, they've made it, they've learnt their lesson, and oh no, we got another movie of that. Whereas this does feel like a whole arc. Like Batman has been on a journey. He's done his, as I said, he's gone from vigilante to superhero, where he's gone, I'm vengeance, I'm the night, and now he's out in the daytime helping like people that need help, which is totally Batman, and the people criticizing it on Twitter don't know the character and need to shut up. But yeah, I love that, and I'm excited, but I also feel like very naturally there's still room for him to grow.
No, definitely, like majorly.
As I said, you could introduce Robin and have him take on like a father role, or you could do whatever.
But that's credit to the writers, because where he was so scaled back in this film, at least from a standpoint of him being Bruce Wayne, even though we've got that growth, like you say, there's still a ton of room.
Absolutely.
To like change it, make him grow even more. Yeah. But overall, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're coming up on 2.5 hours. Is there anything you feel we've sort of missed, I suppose? Or you want to talk about? I feel like we've covered most of the major characters at least.
Yeah.
And the visuals sort of. And obviously we talked a lot about the future.
Yeah, I don't know, yeah. Like I say, I could probably talk about it for longer, but
probably.
It's just I think I've covered everything.
I was going to say, I don't want to like run the risk of us just going in circles over and over where we're like, this movie's great, I can't wait for the next one.
But did you answer the question, top 3?
Oh, villains.
Mr.
Freeze is definitely one. Now you've said it, Killer Croc, absolutely. I would love to. We've not got him. Okay, we got him in the Suicide Squad, or not the original Suicide, but fuck that.
Forget that.
I would love to see like Killer Croc in there somehow. As I said, I don't need him as a main villain, but there's so many like. Let me think for a moment. You give yours while I'm thinking, or at least some of yours.
So again, I put Mr. Freeze. He's probably top for me. Just I don't know. I think he's such a. Just reading up on him like over the past few weeks, he seems like a very complex character.
Yeah, definitely.
Who's like not so much. I know he is a villain, but his motives are very much quite sympathetic. So I think that would be cool to see in this universe. Him. I would like to see. See, me personally, I can do without more of the mob type bosses.
Yeah, so Black Mask people like that.
I want to see more weird out there characters.
I would love to see either Mad Hatter, and you could do like a Bookie Alice in Wonderland like
I've heard a lot of
type thing, or you could do the Wind of the Willows villains. You could have like Professor Pig show up. I could see him because he is like a Bookie serial killer. I could see them doing like just this Bookie guy in a pig mask, where he's like
deformed,
weird.
I think it would be cool, but
not as like the main. If the opening is like Professor Pig's being a fucked up dude, and then
it's
Batman
just
swoops in,
because you do run the risk then of
I don't want the next one to be a serial killer. We've done that. I would like something from like a Mr. Freeze, or
to a certain point, Joker. He probably won't be a serial killer like that, but you know, he's gonna be something along them lines.
I mean, they've literally had him and Riddler like become friends, so he's gonna be similar to Riddler in some way.
What? Just a side note. What if? I know we keep talking about Joker, but what if when they do Joker, it's like a Batman villain team up thing where Joker leads it?
Yeah, I sort of said I wouldn't mind if each movie for now ends with like the Joker recruiting them in Arkham.
Yeah,
and then we
get that
Joker like
team up, and then you bring Catwoman back.
Yeah, and if we've got Robin at that point, and maybe Batgirl, like you could cool. You could do whatever. Yeah, I there's just so many like.
Yeah, I mean Freeze definitely.
Freeze is definitely my number one. I'd love to see him.
You know what? Now that you mentioned it earlier, I would say Scarecrow.
Yeah, as I said, I would really love to see Scarecrow.
And you can do a lot with the visuals of him.
I was going to say, because that is... and why I sort of mentioned Mad Hatter as well, I'd love to see the more trippy, like, weird... especially if we're talking about Court of Owls, like... The most iconic bit of Court of Owls is when he's in the maze losing his fucking mind, like, and you get all those weird visuals where you've got to turn the page like upside down, and like I want that in like movie form, whether it's the fear gas like making him just trip balls, or like Mad Hatter's controlling him and he sees like all this Alice in Wonderland bullshit, and like however you do it, I would like to see a more like psychedelic villain from that perspective. I don't care about like a bit like you said. I don't really need like mob villains in here. I'd rather, as I said, if we did like a Catwoman spin-off, I'd love to see them get their airtime there. Where like cool, we get them, comic accurate, we get them cool villains. But
like Black Mask, I think would be perfect for that.
Yeah,
where
he gets like Falcone's money or something,
and she's chasing it. Yeah, that'd be perfect. I don't know who my third pick would be.
yeah, there's man.
You know what? Fuck it, Poison Ivy.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
again, we haven't got like a serious take.
Yeah,
on it.
genuinely.
So
well, and it's kind of funny how this movie basically had Batman Returns villains with Penguin and Catwoman. It'd be cool if we did like sort of the Batman and Robin villains, especially if Robin's in the movie. If we have like Poison Ivy and Mr. Freeze, but we do them like properly and seriously.
I think Freeze could be like quite compelling, quite good.
Yeah, and I just like the state we're at with the character, because sort of touching on where we were talking before, where we were like seriousness and that, like where it belongs. Batman's never been in a better place for variety. We got a Lego Batman like a few years ago. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't want serious Batman, you don't need... Okay, you could argue in live action, but from what I've heard, that Lego Batman movie is fucking amazing anyway. So would you really want a like subpar live action I'm Batman movie?
No, no disrespect, but that's not what I want when I watch a Batman film.
Yeah,
like I get, because I've seen like the Lego Batman, like is good, like it's funny, it's jokes, but like come on, that's not what Batman is.
I mean, to me it can be like anything. I'm just like, I don't get the complaint when that movie came out like a few years ago. Like if Lego Batman had come out fucking a decade ago, I would get it, but we literally just got that, like, and to be honest, we haven't had a solo Batman movie since Rises. I know he's been about, but like, I did not care about the Snyder movies, so to me, I haven't seen Batman on screen in a long time. Or if I did, it was in BVS, and it sucked. Don't at me. There's a lot out there for Batman fans. Like, I know you're not a fan of Gotham, but like Gotham has its fans. Yeah,
people do like Gotham.
Are you a fan of Gotham?
I haven't seen it properly.
You set me up there. You're like, I'm not a fan of Gotham.
I think it looks cool though. As in, there's a few spins they do with characters which I think are cool.
We'll see.
Like, maybe one day I'll watch it all.
Yeah, and then you'll be like, I was wrong.
Nah, honestly, like, I think you'd be surprised.
Some of it,
because obviously the very premise of the show is a bit weird, where it's like,
what, we're doing Batman with no Batman.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Gordon doesn't even have his fucking mustache.
Yeah, but then it's like, what's wrong with doing stuff differently?
I think when you do it badly.
Yeah, no,
that's my issue. Is like, I don't mind doing I mean, year one is basically more of a Gordon book than a Batman book anyway. But it's just like, it's like ridiculous, but also trying to be like gritty. I don't know. Gotham didn't click with me. And like, it looks like it just gets more and more ridiculous, but like not in a fun way.
I mean, the whole thing, I know they don't have the rights to do certain things. Like, I know they couldn't technically do Joker, but they do Joker.
Interesting choices.
Yeah, but some of it looks cool. Like the Riddler and Two-Face in it look cool. Like,
fair enough.
No, not Two-Face. Sorry, Penguin.
Oh, Penguin. I was gonna say enough.
Riddler and Penguin. Like, a few of the scenes I've seen.
I don't know. I haven't seen all of it. I only saw the first couple of episodes, and I was just like, nah. And I imagine it's a bit like Arrow and Flash, where they change quite a lot as the show goes on.
It seems that way.
Whether that's for the better or for the worse, I don't know. But yeah, I don't know.
It's just like, there's stuff out there for.
Yeah. I have a great. I have my third pick for who I want the Batman villain to be. I've just remembered. Oh, you wouldn't do it now because it wouldn't, with the political climate and that. But KG Beast is a great Batman villain.
KG Beast.
He's better than Bane. Putting it out there, because he's like this fucking spy who's like physically a match for Batman. That the Soviet Union, because it's from like the 80s, they send over to Gotham to just like assassinate a load of people. I think the story arc's called like 10 Nights of the Beast, and just each night Batman's trying to stop him, and he just can't for ages because he's like a physical match.
Right.
There's a great scene where Batman like finally catches up to him, and he like rappel guns his arm, so KG Beast is hanging off this building, and he just fucking cuts his arm off rather than let Batman catch him, because he's just so like
focused,
driven. I'd quite like to see someone like that pop up more than Deathstroke. I keep seeing people talk about Deathstroke. I don't know why.
He wouldn't really be a villain, would he?
He's not a Batman villain.
Yeah.
He's a Teen Titans villain. Don't at me.
I'd like to see him, especially because we didn't get him in the Ben Affleck film.
Yeah, I just don't
See him
consider him
somewhere.
at all connected to Batman. Like, they're both dudes that can fight.
Yeah. But
I don't find anything compelling about them. There's no, like, psychology. You know, like, Riddler is, like, interesting because he's, like, how he sees himself compared to Batman. Like, KG Beast is sort of the same thing where he's, like, singular mission.
Well, a lot of
a bit like Batman in this movie.
Yeah. Well, a lot of, like, his villains are, like, reflections of him.
Yeah, it's like Two Faces duality.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, like, so I get what you mean. Whereas Deathstroke is just like a hired gun.
Yeah, like, I don't
really
see what... I feel like people only care because he was supposed to be in that Batfleck movie.
Yeah, I still think he would be cool to see live action.
Yeah, but I'd just rather get him in a Teen Titans movie.
Or
one,
have him
not like Titans.
Yeah,
I hate all the DC shows.
No, but that genuinely looks. There's nothing there.
I would rather watch that than Gotham.
Really?
I would rather.
That looks
at least that looks like funny. Like, I could laugh at that. He says "fuck Batman." That's hilarious.
But it looks so trash.
Yeah, it does.
I don't know. Like, at least if you're a fan of Batman, like, there's stuff in Gotham for you.
Batman's played by
Jorah.
Jorah. Yeah, I was trying to think of
Ian
that.
Glenn.
I think it was Stannis. Yeah, Jorah.
But and
did you say Glenn?
Ian Glenn?
Ian Glenn. I
That's-
thought you
that's
meant
like-
Glenn from Walking Dead was in there as well. I was like, oh shit,
But
who
like,
does he play?
you got Jason Todd in there,
Yeah, and they just fuck everything
and they
up.
like butcher him.
He's just like a psychopath.
And you
for
have
no
Joker
reason.
in there, but like you don't see his face.
And he's like dead, isn't he? Because
Yeah,
I've seen
but
that
then-
scene where he's like, I did it. I finally did it.
But then like,
And he laughed. Because they make Batman a murderer in that as well.
but then he's not dead.
Yeah,
You
he's,
like see his hand move or something. I
yeah,
think.
he's like in hospital. And
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
Titans is a interesting show.
which is sad because Teen Titans slapped the show.
Well, and like, there's so much to take from the comics there. And also, it's the one thing where we got Robin on screen.
Yeah, good
Finally.
Point. Yeah, good point.
You know, I'm the big guy that's like, oh, fucking put Robin in these movies.
And you got
they
two,
did it,
yeah.
and I don't give a shit.
You must have. I know. Yeah.
Yeah, because you were
Yeah.
because he becomes Nightwing in that show.
Yeah. So you
Dick
got
Grayson.
Dick and
Jason. I
Jason.
don't know if they do Tim Drake, the best Robin. I don't know if they do him at any point. I don't know how you would do him without Batman though.
yeah, because Batman's like 70.
Yeah. I
Unless
don't know.
all the Robins are just in it.
I guess, yeah, he probably shows up because, fan
Yeah.
service, so they can be like, we got all the Robins. Well, and I think they reference, like, Carrie Kelly who's...
She's from Return.
Yeah, and I think they reference Stephanie Brown as well, who's Robin very briefly in the comics, before she's spoiler. So I think they sort of are like, yeah, man, all of Batman, everything, all the time.
But then that's what I feel like. Same with Gotham.
Yeah.
It's like they just got gassed and were like, let's do everything.
Literally.
Arkham and
Yeah, I mean, they do
Batman.
Court of Owls.
Yeah, yeah, of course
Court
they
of
do.
Owls with
Yeah.
no Batman. I want to know, in that universe, Batman must show up and, like, that's that. Like, it's like, well, all my villains have already been defeated by the police. There's no need for me.
It's like the last scene is
Oh my god, that was
With that
so
Buki
cringy.
Joker.
With that shit outfit.
yeah, I don't
You know, when he's Batman. Oh.
Yeah.
Unless you have anything to say, should we wrap it up here, I guess?
No, I'm
Because
satisfied.
we've gone quite. We went to Gotham and Titans at the end there.
Little bonus.
Yeah, just guess give your thoughts on the Batman at the end here. Sort of wrap it up.
Yeah, no.
Whatever
Overall,
else.
I thought it was amazing. I thought it was a perfect place to start with, and it leaves like a lot of room to go from and to grow from. I thought the cast was like stellar. All the performances were great. Again, I don't really have anything bad to say about it.
I was going to say at the
I
end
loved
of the
it.
day, like it was just a great movie.
Yeah,
like
it had a long runtime, but it felt short, which is always a sign of a good film.
I was going to say, like,
So-
and I've seen it twice, so like I was prepared the second time to be like, is this going to drag? But like honestly, it flies by.
Yeah,
because it's a mystery. You're always learning new things. You're in different environments. You get a cool action scene sprinkled in there. Like, at no point was I like, oh man, could do with just hurrying up a bit.
Soundtrack slapped.
Absolutely. Batman's little cowboy boots that like clink as he walks was amazing.
I love the tech, the contact lenses.
Yeah. And I like that it wasn't like too advanced.
Yeah.
Like, he was still clever. He didn't need like, I feel like because in the Arkham games, obviously they're a game, they need you to do stuff. The detective vision and that goes a bit. If that was on screen, I'd be like, well, he's not even doing anything. Yeah. In the game, it works perfectly. Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like, if that was depicted in that way, it wouldn't work.
He still has to do most of.
Yeah, I like that. The Riddler will drop like a fucking weirdo thing, and he'll be like, he's talking about justice.
But yeah, no.
And we got riddles. That was the one thing.
Yes.
I love that we actually got riddles. We did the Riddler and he did riddles.
The tie-in, obviously you can go on the website and
yeah.
to see the Joker's cut scene, you had to like put in answer riddles, and
that's sick.
Yeah. No, I loved it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that wraps us up here. I just realized there's a bat. Bacardi.
Come on, Bacardi. Team up. Have they not done a collab with Batman?
If they didn't, they're fucking missing out.
Batman's a heavy drinker.
Well, in that fucking BBS he is. So yeah, if you enjoyed this episode, give us a follow or a subscribe. If you're on YouTube, drop us a like. Drop in the comments your thoughts on the Batman. I'll either do a poll or a question on Spotify to say did you enjoy it or your thoughts on it. Apple Podcasts, I'm sorry, I can't do anything.
They don't have the
there.
facilities for that.
I was gonna say that they're very much like put your episodes up and move on.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can get us at us on TikTok or Instagram. Just don't start a podcast, all one word. Give us a follow on there. We drop like little snippets and stuff throughout the week. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I'm Ben.
Aaron, if you haven't seen Batman,
I don't know why you listen to this. Yeah, we didn't even drop a spoiler warning. I'll put it in the description. Yeah, next time.